have a little something to eat over here. Make sure you throw away your trash. Be kind to the planet. Recycle your bottles. Will be all that fun stuff. We'll be starting in just a moment. It's a jam-packed program for sound. So hopefully you'll all learn a few things while we're here. We have dueling bags. You can see the professionals only use the black K-Stabs bag, whatever, K-Tech bag. So you have to buy that. So take a picture of that. Otherwise, you're not a professional. So you got to have that bag. And we'll kick off here, I think, in 1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute to countdown. We have the countdown timer going, Tom? The countdown timer? And then we'll kick it off. Let's see if anybody's in the lobby. See how good this mic is. Can you see me? Oh, here? No? Wow. Okay. Will not visit the lobby. Ooh, how about this? I was just kidding. I was just because I'm in a booth. Okay. That was a little down humor there. All right. Mr. Varvel, you ready? Okay. What? Distortion? What are you talking about? It's out there. We just won't talk loudly. And we'll go from there. We're going to introduce Jen in just a moment. Yes. Help yourself. Some crunchy oats and honey. Just don't eat them loudly, please. Disregard the crunchy part. It is 9 o'clock. Okay, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Jane Hare.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. This is a great crowd, and I have 300 seconds and not one more, so I've got to get going on my list. Today, we have a lot going on, and as you can imagine, putting together a meeting like this is a really big undertaking. So I'm going to take a good portion of my 300 seconds and introduce the team who has been part of this. Jeff and Keith organized. Thank you very much for pulling all of this together. But then from a technical standpoint, really has put together the agenda. He's the one who has minute by minute jam-packed presentation. If it goes well, then it's all on me, right? But there's a number of other people who are in the room today. Hidden inside our booth, we've got Tom Kinnaman, who's in charge of our streaming. I see Mickey Peters is in there. She's our social media person. Robin Martin is our vice president. Christy Yee is in there as well. Behind the cameras today, we have Kevin and Joshua Ludwig. Joshua came up to me after the last meeting and volunteered. So we've got him running camera student. Welcome, Joshua. Thank you for joining the team. You may have met Kevin Marty when you first came in, and I know David Rains is here, and Christine Gatlin, who's also on our board, and I feel like I'm missing somebody. So Mark Masonov. Yes, our News You Can Use guy, and also just our host with the most. So, right, I'm probably almost out of. Let me introduce Georgia Phipps. She is with Studio West and the Recording Arts Center, and they are our host today about Studio West.
So here at Studio West, we have lots of different services that we can provide for filming. So we have ADR, voiceover, and we can also mix and surround. In addition to filming and things that services for filming, we also have our big live room here that we can track drums, guitar, bass, and then we've also done some like orchestras in here as well. And then we also have a audio engineering program. So what our program here does is it's a year-long course, and it takes you through getting pretty much a couple of industry certifications for Pro Tools, and a lot of our program is dedicated to sound design and ADR and different things like that has to do with post-production and film. So if you guys are film students and you want to know more about audio, I would highly recommend checking out our program because it has a lot of good information about knowing how to maintain and have good audio for your film, which is something super important. So yeah.
That's what today is all about, how audio is a really important part of your film or any media project. So thank you, Georgia. So Just a couple of housekeeping things. If you go out the door and to the left, that's where the restrooms are. I'm guessing that our audio engineers are all going to want us to put our cell phones on. And we're hoping that everyone will appreciate this amazing facility. Your board is your cleanup crew. So if you can find the trash can, I would really appreciate that. And let's recycle where we can. I'm one of those people who's very sensitive about plastic bottles. I think we're ready to get started, Rich. I'm a minute early, so off we go.
I like it.
Here's Rich Varville.
Hello. Hey, guys. I want to introduce our techs with us. We got James Robb and Alexandra Peral. Let's everybody stare at them for a second. All right. So we're going to be moving really, really fast today. So I just want to let you guys know we are recording this, and it'll be available on the website. You guys can review back because some of this might fly right by you, so we apologize for that in advance, but we got so much that we're going to try to accomplish today. So, all right. And away we go. You should all have a pack that was on your seat. So I put this together. Just kind of go over different tiers, because one of the questions that comes up is when you're putting together an audio rig for a lot of new filmmakers and even intermediate filmmakers, knowing what's available, price ranges, things like that. So we're just going to start off going down the list, and we do have some examples, not all of these, but quite a few. So when choosing a shotgun mic, the first one we have here is a Rode video mic, which you'll see a lot on like a DSLR type camera, and it's good for kind of run and gun or some E&G on the fly kind of stuff. Audio Technica and this Cinol mic, which are pretty cheap mics. You get what you pay for a lot of times with these. Mid-level mics, Sennheiser, Shure, Rode, NTJ3. We have one of those, right?
4.
Oh, we have the 4. Okay. Yeah, the 3 is their flagship. I think that's their top of the line. And then you get into the pro level shotgun mics, and we got Sennheiser, which we do have, right?
The 416.
So the 416.
I have the 416 inside.
And we have. This is your 416, right? So this is what they look like. This is the NTG 4. Thank you.
I can take care of that.
Yeah. And then the Sheps. You have the Sheps, right?
For interiors.
Okay.
Well, sometimes I put for exteriors, but I usually for interiors.
So I'm going to have these guys explain a little bit with these what they're used for in what type of setting, like the MKH 416. James.
Yeah, I'll go over everything. First off, I started off my career with the NTG4. It's a great mic. It's pretty cost effective. I think it's about $369, I think. I've got hundreds of hours on that mic, traveled around the country with it, and it's been just rock solid. So if you're looking for a starter mic, you don't want to skimp on a mic. That's where it all starts. That's your source. That's what you're capturing, your dialogue, your Foley, effects, everything. So don't skimp on your mic. That's your source. That's where it all starts. We're recording in digital now, so what you give it, it's going to capture it. It's a high bit rate, so don't skimp on your mic. I can't stress that enough. From there, we upgraded to the MKH 416. It's pretty much a workhorse mic. It's good for exterior. It's okay for interior. You just have to be careful. You may have to sound treat the room a little bit. It's not good with reflection off the walls. So if you have a bigger room, you're fine. But smaller rooms, you got to be a little careful with it. As far as interior mics, Alexandra's got some of the best. So if you want to go over those.
So for this one, I use for like interviews because it sounds full. The lower range sounds nice. So I had the 804053B.
Audio Technica.
Audio Technica. This is about $600 and it's nice for like interviews, things, or interiors. And
Great mic.
Yeah, it's great. It's like $600 and it sounds great. And then I got the Schups CMC6 MK41. And this is like $1,600, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Fantastic
it's
mic.
kind of the same job. This is like $1,000 difference between these two mics. and it's a slight difference,
You're asking
minimal,
cardioid?
minimal difference. But in higher, super high-end productions, they want this one. But it's minimal, the difference. I think this sounds more realistic. This sounds more like it gives some emphasis on the lows kind of thing. This is like, sometimes I put the headphones on and I'm like, what am I hearing it? Or it's more like real, I think.
I guess the main thing to stress is do your research. You know, what
Yeah.
application you're going to be using it. And
Yes.
if you're working on a pro level, it's really important to have industry standard stuff, numbers and models that people recognize on their riders. That's why I went with the 416, because it's good for pretty much anything we do. Anything else on mics you want to go over?
So we're moving on to recorders.
We're going to kind of move. We'll take questions.
Yeah.
And I'll be here at lunch if you have anything, man.
Yeah, at the end of the section, we'll take a few questions, but like I said, we got a lot to get
Yeah.
covered, so we're just going to be moving through. So recorders, if you can see on the top level here, the Marantz, the Tascam are both units. You can see at the top where you can actually mount that to your camera. A lot of times you can use these for DSLRs. When you move up into bigger cameras, you probably wouldn't be using this, but they're good entry level. We've used the Tascam for many years, and it's got decent preamps to it, and it's a decent unit for the price. You get into the mid-level sound devices is one of the industry standards. I mean, it's pretty much the highest quality recorders you can get for the price range. Zoom F8N is also a very good recorder. Talk about the F8 with the parameters.
I think you
Yeah.
know it better, right?
Yeah, I used it a lot. So I used to have the little H6, Zoom H6, but that doesn't do time code. So when I start doing sound, some people will ask me for time code to sync. So the F8 is the first one next to in price range that has time code. So once I grabbed that, I was able to label tracks. I was able to label the files. I was able to do a lot of sound reports, and it's like about $1,000, I think.
And that's some of the
Yeah.
pro-level features you're looking for when you get up there is like
Yeah.
you want time code for syncing and post. A lot of features that
Yeah.
just a small increment in money makes a big difference in features.
It comes with an external mixer as well, right?
You
Yeah.
can get one.
With
Yeah.
extra money.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it comes with that.
So then you get into some of the pro-level units. I haven't personally used the Tascam, but it looks like it's got lots of inputs. But Tascam's been known, they've been around forever. I don't know, 50, 60 years at least, and they've always been known to have really nice preamps to it. And that's a lot of a quality mic, and a nice preamp is going to give you a nice solid sound going into source. We use the 633, which they both actually have those in the rig. The 688 is kind of the big brother of all of them. And the 688 just has more capabilities, more inputs, and a few more features. But for most of your needs, doing interviews or even film shoots, and I mean, it's 633. We use that on reality shows, and we've used it pretty much for everything. And it's a really great go-to recorder. So I'll have you guys talk a little bit about that.
When I started off with the Tascam, a DR70D, which is a great recorder. And what's the price on that, Rich? I don't even recall.
It's like $300.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cost effective, good starter. The preamps sound really good. They don't color your signal much. And it was great for me. I used it for years and years in conjunction with NTG4. But then we jumped up to the 633. We made the move because we wanted to go pro level, and it was a game changer. The features in the 633, the way you can route your outputs, the limiting in here is huge because if you have talent that's really dynamic in their vocals, up and down from low to high, the limiter will grab that. So you can set your gain pretty much at unity and get a good level, consistent level, and if they peak, that limiter will grab it and squash it, but it's really transparent. So that's a huge feature to have in this thing, and it's served me really well. Actually, Alexandra has a 633 as well. Her cabling is absolutely amazing, so for custom stuff. Do we want to show that or just show bag later?
Oh, we're going to do that in the next
Okay,
section.
we'll do that later.
Well, what I can say about the 633 compared to the Zoom F8, because I use both, is that the Zoom F8, what you hear on your headphones on the Zoom, it sounds not great, but once you play it back on your software, it sounds good. But once you are there, you are like, this doesn't sound good.
Right.
But it's not doing a bad job. But I learned that, and then with experience, it's like, this is fine, but it's very like, it's not good. And here you hear it like nicely. And then the limiting thing, it's huge difference between the Zoom F8 and the 633. It's huge. It helps a lot because sometimes you're recording, running gun, and then they clap or something, and here you save that take, and then the other one it might be just picking.
That was a really good point about the F8 is what you're hearing, you're monitoring. You want to be accurate to what you're going to be reproducing when you play it back. That way, when you're booming, if you're hearing something off axis, you're hearing phasing issues, you want to hear a true representation of what's going to be recorded. And the one thing about the high-end devices like this is a headphone amp are amazing, and it reproduces exactly what you're recording. Do you have something else?
No.
Okay.
Maybe moving along. Okay, so
Ready?
we're getting into wireless lav systems.
Okay.
You have the.
Yeah,
the
actually,
Rosa?
I'll give you an example of that. This is what we start off with. We start off with the Rode Links. It's producer pack, is that what it's called?
Filmmaker kit.
Filmmaker
something
kit.
like that. Yeah.
Served us really well. Same thing. We started with the same kit, the Tascam, the NTG, and the Rhodes. The only downside of these, the reception and transmission is fine. The lav themselves that come with it are really prone to fault. They've got a really thin wire, and I've had probably 3 of them I killed along the way. But what I will say is Rhodes customer service is absolutely amazing. I let them know that I said, look, I had 2, I'm on set. Next day they had them in the mail to me. And I didn't have to send these back, they just sent me brand new ones. So I can't stress that enough. If you're starting out, you need good customer service. Rode is definitely cool. From there, we jumped up to the Sonys. This is UTX series, I can't remember, I'm sorry, bad with numbers. These are a game changer for us as well. They are great in transmission, no dropouts, great distance. 50 yards easy, I've done several times. I won't talk about the elements, we'll do that later, correct?
Yeah, we'll talk about it in a
Okay,
second. Pull that out. Just
go ahead.
Give an example, too, of one of the things you're going to get into when you start wiring people up. I mean, just look at the size difference on these things. This is pretty bulky if you're trying to conceal it, on an actor in a situation. These are a little bit, more workable, and then we'll get into showing you electrodes, which are pretty much top of the line, they get even smaller.
And this is the
So
big
you-
one.
Yeah, and that's a big one. There's some that are almost half that size. So,
Right.
which is really important when you're trying to hide, hide systems on actors.
Great point. Yeah, the roads were always a challenge to hide. I went on the ankle a lot and run the cable up, which is drag for the actor, talent to have to deal with. Lower profile, definitely a winner for sure. Sony's for the price point, I think they're about $600. It's money well spent. You can always get another element, which I upgraded to Sanken, cost 11s. We'll talk about that later. But great unit. But pro level stuff, even higher than what I'm using. Electros, which he has going on here. If you want to go over those a little bit.
Okay, so these ones are the Electrosonics 411s. These are not the newest out there, but they're very nice. And because they have 2 antennas, they are even stronger than the newer versions. Yep. So the only downside is that they are a little bit heavy.
Make your bag really heavy. You fill in the back.
But because they have the 2 antennas,
The transmission reception is
So-
really good for there.
that's the one. And they pair with either one of these or
And that's the receiver. Just
Yeah.
so you know, that's not a big giant pack
this
you're
is the
putting on someone.
receiver.
So.
This is what I put on the actor or this one. And yeah, so it's very weird. You have to be super far to lose them and the
I
frequencies.
think the range on that's like 1,400 feet or something.
Yeah, it's very good. And then
which is almost a quarter of a mile.
what is
pretty
nice
good.
about this is that you can scan the frequencies. Like you get to a new location and you scan the frequencies and you see what's free, and you have a visual representation there. Other mics like the Sennheisers, they pick them for you kind of, and then you select which one. But that's why I like these ones. They are a little bit heavy. That's the only thing. Yeah.
And obviously, as you're looking at this, you're seeing price differences. Sometimes, if you're just starting out and building a kit, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to spend $15,000, $20,000 getting a rig, and it can be overwhelming. One of the things that we've learned the hard way over the years is that whatever it takes to get highest quality gear from the beginning, if you're going to be doing sound for your projects for the long term, invest ahead of time. You're going to thank yourself down the road, because if you try to go cheap, you're going to end up spending more money later, or you're going to get into a situation on set when something fails on you, and that's just
So
unacceptable.
These ones are like, the receivers are like $1,700 new, and this is like 1,300.
Yeah, so some of the entry stuff they'll make them as kits where you have a transmitter and a receiver kit and with a microphone.
Yeah.
When you start getting into some of the high level stuff, they're sold as individual units,
Yeah.
because you're going to have different transmitters and different receivers and different components and so the price starts getting up there quite a bit.
And then you can pick the lavalier after you buy those. Or I have the Countryman, which is cheaper. It's like
We're gonna get into those next.
Okay. And DPA.
Just real quick, that can't stress enough, spending the money and getting quality gear, you'll spend a lot less time in post. The Rode, we had to do a lot of EQing in post. As soon as we got the MKH, it's like we flew it in and we're like, what? It requires a lot less work, which means less time spent, which means more money.
Definitely.
Since that double antenna, is that directional? Is it?
No, it's just like more range. More
It's
true
powerful.
diversity.
True diversity, so if
Yeah.
one drops out, the other one picks it up.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you don't have any signal loss. Yeah. So we're getting into the law of microphones now. So you've got entry level, like the Rode Go, like we were just talking about. It's an okay mic. The Rodes, they're not great. Like I said, you get what you pay for, but their customer service, Rode, I mean, fantastic. Probably one of the top 2 or 3 companies I've ever worked with in that regard, and that goes a long way when you need gear on the fly. So you get into the mid-level Audio Technicas, and the Sures those are workhorse type of mics. The Shure products are fantastic. They'll last you quite a few years if you take care of them. Then you get into the pro-level mics are a little bit more expensive, but especially when you get to lav mics, they differ a bit from your shotgun mics, but you want to try to get something that's comparable in sound quality, which we'll show you later when we get into shooting the scene, by using a boom and the lavs and getting into post. You don't want to have vastly different sounds, because it's going to be a nightmare to try to match those up if you have to go to your lav for dialogue or to the boom. So we'll explain that in a few, but go ahead and go through some of the microphones, the lav mics that you guys have.
Starting off, like I said, start off with the Rode Lav. They broke quite a bit on me. So we decided, look, that's costing us time. We're going to upgrade. So when it went to the Sony system for the receivers and transmitter, it comes with an Element, the Sony. I don't recall the model number. But we struck that and just upgraded the mics to right off the bat. Again, I do a ton of research before we buy anything. I'm just researching it and checking forums and reading, live sound guys, what they're using. The Sanken Cause 11 was pretty much across the board, kind of the go-to, kind of like my Sennheiser MKH. It's a go-to mic. It's great frequency response. It's close to what we achieve with the boom, because in post we don't want drastic differences like Rich was saying. The Sankens worked really, really well for us. There's so many out there. Alexander has even more.
Yeah.
Moving on up.
So this is the first ones I had was the Countryman B3s, and they are under like 180, and they are great with water and difference in weather, but it's not the highest quality, let's say. And then I got the DPAs, and the DPAs, this is a 4061 core, and these are about $500, $600. This just the cable, but I found out that like in very humid weather, I might use the Countryman even though it's $400 less, because these might die on me. One time that happened to me, but this is like higher sound quality.
A lot of times too, you're going to want, when you get in more professional level, you're going to want options in your kit of different types of mics. Because you may have, the female voice frequency is different from the male voice, and there's so many variables. And, one mic might sound better on Talent than the other mic. The more expensive mic may not sound as good. So it's nice to have options.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why when my research, I went with the Cause 11. It's like pretty much right in the middle. It's good for female voice, male voice. It's a good general workhorse. And that's what I tend to gravitate to, because I don't have a selection that she does, which I'm not jealous of at all. She spent some money. It's amazing.
One of the things too, can't you use some of the mic elements on the less expensive?
Yeah, absolutely. It
Wireless
depends on you.
systems?
Like, this is a 1/8" tip ring sleeve, and most of them are pretty universal, the wiring, as far as going with different transmitter. I've never tried it with the Rode, honestly, so I don't know. But the Sony Cause 11s are wired different. You have different connections. You have like a TA3 connection, like she has on that.
Yeah, so these ones for the DPA, you buy the adapter separate. So the cable is like $500. Then you buy the adapter, which is like $100. That's why it's like $600. And this is like 5-pin. But I have one that is at 1/8 for a Sennheiser mic. So I have the very
Right.
expensive. So if the lav is more expensive than the transmitter in that case.
And as you can notice a theme, as you get into more high-level pro stuff, it's, there's elements, accessories and components, and the price
Well, like
goes way up.
cameras. I mean,
Yeah.
your lenses, everything, your arms.
Even
But it
on
gives
the-
you options, which is great.
Yeah.
Even you can change the tip. Like if it's very deep in the clothing, it sounds different. So you might want to boost the higher notes. So you change the tip, and you can buy that separate too. But it comes with it just in case.
Tons of variables.
Yeah.
All right, so we're moving on to accessories. So when laving up, and we'll get into some of the other boom accessories as well, but since we're talking about lav mics,
Sure.
go over some of the accessories when mounting and wiring someone up.
Okay. A lot of variables. Different clothing, different material. Some material is really rustly, and you're going to get noise. It's inherent with a gig. And there's tips and tricks for all that stuff, and we can go on for days. There's so many different techniques. Couple things. I bought these recently. They're called Bumblebee concealers, and she uses them too as well. But basically, the mic goes in here, and it's got this this metal ridge that kind of conceals, that protects the head from getting clothing rustle. One of the best investments I've ever made, night and day. But a lot of times you've got, if you have talent in a t-shirt, like a tight t-shirt or leotard, which I've experienced, you really want a low profile as possible, and these Sankins are really good for that. The Cause 11s are really low profile, and I can hide it in a t-shirt, for instance. I can hide it in a collar underneath the thicker part of the material and tape it. Different types of tape. Again, it depends on, like, if you have someone that's really sweaty. I've got worst case scenario, I use this stuff called Joe Sticky Stuff, and you can hang frames, mirrors with this stuff. It's amazing. It can support a lot of weight, and it's really adhesive. So if you have sweaty talent, it'll really work. I use Top Stick, which is for toupees. I learned that from Mr. Allberger. He shared that with me, and I still use it to this day. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And then I've got, for the Bumblebee, I've got the tape that actually comes with it that's formed to the shape of the concealer itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's got an even bigger kit. Go figure.
This is my bigger kit. So,
It's double-sided.
but it's double-sided. So I have it small, so I can when I'm running behind that basketball
I'm
player.
stealing that idea.
And it falls, and I cannot go back to grab the tape or whatever, then I just grab this and do it. So I have pretty much the same Bumblebee tape, which goes behind the concealers. I have this Top Stick, same thing.
Did you tell her too?
I have Ursa tapes.
Great stuff.
I have Rycote O's.
Great stuff.
What else I have?
Tell about your furries, what you use those for.
Oh, yeah. For wind, this is a Bumblebee, and they're just furry balls that I put on top around
It's a
the...
version for a lav, same thing, and we use on blimps
Uh-huh.
to break the wind up so you're not
Yep.
getting
And
boom.
we're getting into that here in a minute.
And
too.
then I have their O's, their Rycote O's. I use them with these Ursa furry circles
Does that help with rustle too against clothing?
against wind, against rustle.
Okay.
And this is the Ursa circles, different colors, and they are for clothing noise. And I got these. I forgot the name of these.
I think they're called Haida mics. I
Haida
think.
mics, yes. So I use them too for ties. Sometimes I put the lab on the ties for guys, and I use them there. And I just got some bunch of different things that I haven't even used yet.
You never know what you're walking into sometimes.
Yeah,
you know?
sometimes it's the clothing that is new and is noisy, or sometimes there is a hairy guy, or sometimes I don't know.
A lot of
A
variables.
lot of different things.
When you're miking up a dog, you know, they're really furry. It rustles a lot.
Yes, yes. So yeah, you have to have options because you never know what will work. So.
Anything else as far as accessories?
Tape.
Tape.
All kinds of medical tape. So medical tape, medical tape. This is the one I use all like for it, like if I see it's getting red, I change the tape.
Let's go over this real quick. Concealing the packs on talent,
Yep.
that's a big challenge. Sometimes the wardrobe's really tight, and you don't want a pack showing, if we
Like
have,
this.
right, like that.
Yeah.
But to do that, sometimes we have to conceal those in different ways. You'll have a chest strap that has a pouch mounted on
Yeah,
it,
like this one.
which she has, of course.
So
And then same thing with the ankle too. Sometimes you have to run a wire down talent if they, whatever the reasoning behind it, and put it on their ankle as well.
So I think this is the Ursa. They come by sizes and they color coded. So when you are in a hurry and so you grab the one you need and you put the pack there and then you wrap it around. And sometimes you can do it here, but sometimes you cannot. So you have to have options. And this is for the ankle. So it's the same thing, but it goes in the leg. And I have for the tie also.
Now, how do you
So-
treat the wire, like say if it's at the ankle and you're running that all the way up to the element? How do you treat?
Well,
That situation.
you can use a bullet. You put like the weight at the end of the lab and you drop it on the clothes. But sometimes it's too tight or whatever. So you make it work.
Make friends with wardrobe,
Yeah.
always,
Yeah,
because they'll always
wardrobe,
support you in this kind of stuff.
and-
This is
yep.
the length of a lav, like an average, so you're gonna have a little extra length you're gonna have
Yep.
to tuck. Generally, you're gonna do a loop, and you're gonna tape it along the way. You want less stress on the wire as possible, obviously. Because if you do have a lot of stress, it's not good for the element, and it causes more rustling. If you have some slack in it, it's less apt to move around.
Yeah, and then you have to wash them.
Yes,
This is fake blood that never came up. But
long story.
yeah.
Okay, so we're moving on to actually setting up your bag. So we'll have them go through and kind of just, give a little visual. They're not going to take everything out of the bag because it takes a long time. And there's a lot of wiring in here, but there's compartments and things on the bags, and they'll show you how to put the bag together and the wiring, and then some tips and tricks on convenience, and and I'm sure everyone's bag is personal to them, and they're going to set it up their own way that they're comfortable with, and you can obviously how theirs are slightly different, but they'll go through and explain.
Absolutely. It is personal preference. You really want stuff visually that makes sense for you. Like my lavs, my packs, I generally I take color-coded tape. That way I know when I put it on talent what channel they're going into. Just a quick reference. Just little tricks like that make a huge difference on set because I don't want them to hold for sound and wait on me. I want to make sure that I'm on point and always timely about everything. So the bag build, essentially, K-Tech's what we both use. K-Tech is based out of Vista, which I didn't know until recently. So I'm supporting local business, which is great. There's a ton of pockets in this thing inside there. There's a basic layout on inputs, three balance for line in. I could go over that for days, but this is a bag setup. Like Alexandra said, utilizing all your pockets to make for quick fixes on set is huge. This K-Tech has been amazing for me. For changing batteries out, even they've got this to where you can access the back using Sony mount batteries, and if I'm on set and need to change them, which I've never had to because these are awesome, this uses two batteries, and I've done 14-hour days on one battery and never defaulted to the other one. So quick access via the bag here. It's magnetic, so if you just want to throw it, it grabs it. When I boom, my cable comes out this port here. There's several options. That's the one I chose. There's no right or wrong in this kind of stuff. I bought this recently. It's made to mount for boom poles to hold it, but I use it for my headphones. I'm sure you get a cool idea. Let's see. That's basically it. Wireless is, there's little slips right here that you can mount your clamps on. So everything's pretty fixed. Nothing's going to slide out when I'm on set. I'll show you how harness stuff. You can get to that later. Okay, we'll go to that later.
Well, we'll have her run through your bag, and you can get yours ready, and then you show them
Okay,
on it.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so since I already spent a lot of money, I spent more. So I just order custom-made cables, and they are color-coded, and they're the specific length that I need for every single receiver. And I have a battery distribution system, so which is a battery that goes here, and that connects to the distribution system, which is this. It's an old version, and that feeds all my receivers. So when I want to change batteries, the battery is feeding everything here, everything. So I do change batteries on set like twice or 3 times a day. Because electros are grabbing a lot of it. The battery lasts like 4 hours, and this is the battery.
Let me show that real quick.
And that's why I got custom-made cables, because then they don't get in the way into plugging it back. And then here in this side, I have the headphones jacks, and then I do have cables set up for timecode, so I don't have to plug anything. So I have 2 kinds of timecode things, so I have all the cables ready to go.
That's huge.
Yep.
Speaking of batteries, the Sonys, I don't have a battery distribution system, so I use rechargeables. And Panasonic Inteloops, I think, are pretty much the industry standard. I found out IKEA has a brand called Lada. They're made by Panasonic.
You have to put them yourself?
What's that?
You have to put them together yourself?
Yeah.
IKEA battery.
That was solid. Took a minute. These are like, I think these are $7 a pack of 4. And they're made at the same factory by Panasonic, but they're labeled for IKEA. These will power one of these receivers, transmitters for 12 hours, easy. I never do that. I always change at launch. I change my batteries out. But if you're looking for a good investment for rechargeables, IKEA Lada 2450. They're white. Don't get the gray ones. Get the white ones. They're the ones that last.
So the NPF batteries that you showed us in here, are those connected to the your box, or is that like a separate battery?
It's going straight to the sound devices. It mounts on the back. It slides onto it and locks in place.
Okay.
Carrying on with bags, this is also a K-Tech product because they rock. Just got this probably about a year ago, and it's got a rigid spine on the back, and basically you're carrying your bag sometimes, for an 8-hour sprint. Sometimes you don't break for lunch, you're going 12. It's very important to support your back. The way this works is it basically has 3 pick points, 1, 2, and 3, that mount on clips on the bag. So it takes a while to get into it. It's kind of a drag, but once I put it on, I generally keep it on. But what it does basically, it brings all the weight to your waist, the way it supports all the pick points, and game changer. I used a Petrol for the longest time, and my back would just scream at the end of a day. This, I'm going 12 hours, I don't even feel it. It's all in the hips. So,
Well, here's an example.
yeah, that's your old bag. Wow.
Yeah, so like,
Brings back memories.
so this is a cheaper bag, and this kind of supports what we're talking about with higher end gear. Obviously, you can see, it's going to distribute the weight much, more evenly, less fatigue. you go with a little cheaper bag. It's just going to strap around your shoulders, and after a couple hours, you're going to be feeling it, quite a bit. So
Check the weight of our bags later on, so you
Yeah.
get an idea of what we're dealing with.
yeah, especially with hers,
Especially hers.
with the
Jeez.
power distribution and the electrodes, which are all metal casings. It ggets quite a bit heavier, and yeah, I mean, you're going to need that harness, for a long day.
Yeah, I used to use the Orca, and they are yeah, Orca is great. But for my height, I felt they were too low. I used the Orca harness with the Orca bag, but it was a little bit too low for me, and I will get tired on my shoulders. And this one, K-Tech has a smaller harness. So if you turn around.
Oh, yeah.
So can you see the difference? So these are small, and they have different sizes, and then you adjust. So this one, as he said, you feel the weight on the hips and the legs. With the other bag, for my height, I felt the weight on my shoulders and the back. This one, I felt like I'm exercising my legs.
Yeah.
So-
K-Tech, like I said, is made out of Vista, so definitely want to support them if at all possible. It's a little bit more pricey than your average stuff. I think this bag is like $300, $400?
300?
Yeah, around $300,
350.
and this was around $279, which was
Money well spent.
priceless. Yeah.
So we're moving on to booms. So now that you've got your harness on, so show us like rigging up your boom, and because you're going to get into situations where you're going to be doing everything yourself.
Right,
You're
right,
not always
right.
going to have someone doing, a boom off.
Right.
So we're trying to show you, self-contained, one-person show here.
Yeah, this is why you don't take this off much. I try to keep it on. It's a pain. You gotta get.
Yeah, it's
You gotta look
six-
kind of funny.
six clips.
So booms, boom pole. Can't stress enough, not skimping on that as well. You're going to be holding the boom, if you're doing that, for hours at a day. And it really is important to make the investment. Start off with this Polson, which is really heavy, and all the mount points here are just like, they're really stiff and just uncomfortable, and it's just like, there's no internal cable, so my cable has a run on the outside, and I used to slap against it when I make a quick move. So, stepped up from there, went with K-Tech again. This is a K-Tech 110CR. On the you plug it in here, internal. What's that?
Interruption. You're hitting your mic.
Oh, what kind of sound guy am I? I love myself too,
Wait,
so
can you change it?
I feel really uncomfortable.
Sorry.
This is a great
Kidding.
example, though, of being cognizant on set as a sound person to notice that, and because she doesn't even have headphones on
Yeah.
to hear it right
But
now.
I
so-
heard.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So the K-Tech boom, again, game changer. These are all really smooth moves. When you get on set, I get in a standby position, which I leave space in between. That way, if I have to extend something, I can just grab the joint, extend it really quick for whatever. Shock mount, got to have it. You will get noise because a lot of times you have to do a quick move between talent,
Yeah.
and you'll hear it if you don't have a good shock mount, so you can't skip on that either. I think mine boom was about 400, around that area. And then if we step up to the next level of boom,
This is an ambient boom. What I like about this is that I don't have to go all the way to make it like tight or loose. I can just like do this.
it's carbon fiber too, by the way.
It's carbon fiber, and I can like do it. And there's like longer ones. This is a quick release. So if I have the shelf, for example, the quick release is just like that. Otherwise, you have to screw that in. And then, now we're going outdoors. So I just change that, and I have my quick release set up for the other one, and it's ready to go. And I just that's it. And I just change the cable. So that's the quick release, and it's like $100, I think. And it comes with two of them, so you can have two ready to go.
Explain that
That's huge.
fuzzy-looking thing that's on the end right now.
This is the Rycott wind jammer, and yeah, it's for heavy wind. If it's not a lot of wind, there's not a lot of wind. I might use just the shapes with a little,
Like this,
like that.
furry.
And we affectionately call these on set a dead cat.
Yeah.
And that one is what?
raccoon and
Or a dead wombat.
Dead wombat.
Yep.
I did a shoot at the zoo the other day, the Wild Animal Park, and then I went to the zoo, and they let me know not to use those because animals do not like those.
Yes,
It's seen as a-
yes, that's a good point. I do a lot of horse racing, like shoots.
Oh, wow.
So when we do that, I just boom from under. Yeah, like.
that's called underslinging.
Uh-huh.
We'll get into that later.
Show us a blimp.
This is Blimp. This is what I use.
yeah.
This is made by Rode. It's cost effective. We use this with the NT4 for the longest time. But for breaking up wind, it's huge. I don't have a weight amount. Well, actually, use this one. Throw it in here, throw it in the shock mount, and you can adjust all these where you want to place this. You can slide it forward if you want to. Lots of different ways of mounting it. And then you throw the Blimp on, it slides on. And this, again, is investment you have to make. You cannot not have one of these in your arsenal for sure.
And I don't know if we covered it, but obviously this is for exterior wind.
Yes.
You know, cutting out the
Yeah, that's what I was going to go
wind
to.
noise. Yeah, okay.
We did a shoot at the beach, and I was really stressed because it was really howling that day, as it usually is at the beach. But I used that in conjunction with the dead wombat, and we were just blown away. There was absolutely no wind noise whatsoever, and it was really howling. I don't know how fast it was moving, but it was really hauling. And we had no wind noise whatsoever, which I didn't expect. And with everything on there, we lost no frequency response, which is what I was really concerned with as well, having to use so much stuff in between the diaphragm and everything. So that's huge, a great investment.
So we're moving on to the end here where we're going to be talking about just briefly equipment maintenance. You're just basically taking care of your gear, because there's a lot of times people don't really even understand wrapping cables and making sure you don't yank cables out and things of that nature. But go over some of the things that you guys do on a daily, like a routine, to ensure no damage to your gear and just a general
Sure. Same thing as camera. I mean, dust is the enemy always. So, I work in the desert areas, you know what I mean, where there's a lot of dust and canyons around here. Compressed air, just like camera stuff. Basically, after any shoot, I'm going through and I'm blowing out, taking everything out and blowing it out. Make sure they stay clean. That's imperative. Wipes, because dust will get underneath your trim pots and everything, so you have to really use a Q-tip and really clean everything out. You got to be really meticulous. When you spend the kind of money we're spending on this gear, you want to maintain it. Cabling, like our lavs, for instance, it's a pretty thin cable. So you really have to be careful, especially with talent, because I've had some local talent, like my Rhodes, he was done with his set, he just unplugged it instead of, I always tell him, please let me, pull the cables for you. But he ruined my lav. It was a $300 lav, but you definitely have to communicate with your talent, let them know that, let me handle all that, because when they're done with their scene, sometimes they're just over it. They want to get out of there, so communication's huge.
Oh, sorry.
What you got?
For labs, since I got the Countryman B3s, they come in this case, which I like because it's big. And then I have the Countryman B3s and the DPAs there. So they are in a hard case, and I put my transmitters there. So I have, if I know I'm making 3 people, I just grab 3 cases. This. Because I do a lot of shoots in a hurry, so that's how I save the laps. You cannot just throw them in a bag. No.
Again, we don't want to hold up production.
Yes.
That's a great idea. I'm going to steal that one for sure.
And then I just grab a lot of Tupperware, and I have a lot of cables in Tupperware.
Sure, too.
Let me show really quick. So all my time code cables, I don't know if it's the greatest idea, but it keeps them safe. This is time code cables, and it's just Tupperware. And these are little XLRs or adapters that I need sometimes for this bag, depending on what I'm doing. And I don't have a lot of space in my cases, so I just put them here. And and yep, and then you can.
Containers, same thing like this for batteries. Once I charge them, I put them in these four bangers. The thing that's cool about this, a tip and trick, is they pop out of the end. There's only one open end, the other end's closed. If a
Yes.
battery's fresh, I keep the positive end up. Once they're dead, I flip them and put them like that. That way I know when I get home I need to charge them.
Oh, I do the same way.
Of course.
People do it the opposite, but I like it because when they have the tip out, it's like they are ready to go. That's how I understand it. So I have the same thing like him, and these are the 9-volt because these receivers take 9 volts. So in case my main battery dies and I need emergency or whatever, I have these 9 volts, and I also feed Comtex with that. So.
Well, one of the things too, like James pointed out with the IKEA batteries, I don't know if any of you here have gone, used regular like Duracells or anything during the day and keep a tally of how much you're spending on batteries. You will be shocked at how much you're spending. So that is a great tip, and it's a great investment with the
Yes.
rechargeables.
And you can buy a bunch of it. I've got probably 40 of those batteries now. That way I'll never run out on set. I don't have to worry
Yes.
I never stress about that kind of
Yeah,
stuff. Which is less stress.
I have
That's the
about
key.
40 also, and I'm fine with that. And they last for like 3 years, like constantly using them. And yeah, so that's what I have.
Cool. So we're going to open it up to a couple, little Q&A here for just a couple of minutes during this section before we move on to the next. So any questions regarding any of this at this point?
I'm going to try to come to you one at a time so we can record your fine questions. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah. About loving up talent. Shouldn't you maybe like ask them how?
We're going to get into that next section. We'll be talking about that
Yeah,
in
we will
detail.
cover
Sorry.
that thoroughly,
Yeah.
trust me.
Yeah, we're just going over gear for right now.
What about your headphones? What do you recommend?
Oh,
and
good
how do
question.
you choose those things?
Surprisingly enough, she uses the same ones I do. MDR 7506. Again, industry standard, flat response. You don't want any kind of enhanced bass. I'm sorry?
Yeah, the Sony, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And another tip and trick, which she uses as well, are softies.
the
They're
softies.
covers that cover the entire thing, and if you're going for a
Yeah.
12-hour shoot, they're warm for your ears too if it's a cold day out.
Yeah, I like them because when your headphones get old, they might leave black spots.
Start peeling and cracking on you.
Or for me that I wear makeup, my headphones start getting brownish. So these ones you can wash. So because you're putting something in your face for like 12 hours every day.
It's absorbing a lot of sweat, trust me.
So that's kind of nasty if you, yeah. So I wash them sometimes.
Yeah, and like she just did, the Sonys fold up really compact too.
Yeah.
So you can stick them in your bag or wherever, low profile.
Yep.
And Sony sound great. In general, just Sony products. sound
Again,
great.
industry standard,
Yeah.
7506. Every
Yeah.
Soundy, well, vast majority of Soundies you'll see use
Oh,
them,
can
for
I
sure.
make a parenthesis about the Slate? I didn't talk about
Yeah,
the Slate. So Slate, since these mixers do time code, you can send time code to the Slate.
Super cool.
Well, we're going to go over in the next section.
Yep.
We're going to talk about that too.
And yeah, I didn't want to miss that
Yeah.
because
No, we're going to
Yeah,
talk
we
about
should
that.
over here,
next
definitely
section.
cover that
Yeah.
for
So we're
sure.
just basically any questions on
Yeah.
gear
Oh, yeah.
in general.
Question over here, Rich.
This is gonna be real quick. Okay, so the ankle and the chest strap. Who makes those?
Ursa, but Ursa,
ORSA.
URSA.
SA.
They make a ton of product,
Yeah.
and it's all good.
These ones,
No, it's actually made for sound.
yeah. There are other brands, but I think this is like one of the best ones because they're so thin.
Absolutely. 100% agree.
We had a question over here. Is this from online?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So we have, Robert wants to know, what are your preferred wireless systems? Electrosonic, Zacom?
Electros are kind of the industry standard. Zaxcom is great stuff, but
I feel Saxcom is a little bit more expensive, a tiny bit, and I'm more
True.
familiar with electrosonics, and there is more out in the market and used, and I feel if something goes wrong with mine, I quickly can find a replacement. So I do like electrosonics.
you can generally buy those used and not worry about it. It's going to
Yeah.
be, it's a solid product. The build's amazing, for sure.
Electrosonics has a great customer service center for professionals too.
True.
I mean, I believe you get your own account rep too. So someone that works with you, you can call up on the fly if you
Yep.
need it. But Zaxcom, the Zaxcom question too. Yeah, Zaxcom is on your list of products there too, and that's real high tier stuff, and that gets really expensive, but the
Yeah.
Electras are great.
And they're built to last. I mean, they're tough, they're
Yep.
rugged, in any
Yeah.
condition, any environment too.
Yep.
That's
Another question
Okay,
here.
last question?
Alexander, I just want to know what the brand of your boom was.
This is ambient.
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 Great, thank you.
Yes.
How much is that boom?
This one is like $400. That's about the
you
same
sure?
price. Yeah.
Is it
Be-
really? I thought it was more than
because this is like
James is buying a new boom pole.
8.5 feet, so it's not that
Okay.
long.
That's
why
why.
it's cheaper. If I was getting a longer one, it would be more
That's true.
expensive. Yeah.
And that's carbon fiber, which is
Yeah.
huge on a boom when
Yeah.
you're booming all day, 12-hour days.
Yeah.
It really takes my rotator cuff a couple years ago really started affecting me. Like, and I would boom for an hour, and I'd be like, okay, I gotta rest. Having tools like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that in your arsenal is huge. Carbon fiber, you pay more for it, but save your shoulders, save your health.
Yeah.
One more
And-
question.
hire
to
a boom
Rich.
op.
Well, where
Hire
do
a
you
boom op.
Some young kid that
All
can do
right.
it.
where do you buy all of your little gadget things like your sticky stuff and toupee and bumblebee? Is there a spot? Where do you get all that?
Sally's Beauty Supply for the toupee stuff. There's a place in LA called Location Sound that we went up to recently that I was in the candy store. They've got every accessory you could ever imagine. Locally, there's no one I've found that stock all the variables that we need. I wish we did because I would shop there. But I do a lot of ordering online as well.
Yeah, I buy through.
You're LA based too, so.
Yeah, I'm LA based also. So I go to Location Sound
Ah,
and True Audio.
yep.
But there are some things that I get that I go to the pharmacy, like tapes, because they're cheaper there. I have more options for like skin things, I feel. But like some, I just order B&H, like the Bumblebee things. Yep.
We've given them a lot of money.
Okay, so we're going to be moving on to the next section, production. So let's talk a little bit about your on-set workflow, and I've got written down here gain structure. So for those of you that don't understand gain structure, we'll explain that. You know, and your signal from source, if it's talent that's speaking, the volume that they're putting out as it's going in, how you set your levels.
Right. I'll start on that. Basically, let's say I'm just booming. I'm not using a lav. We'll start there. What I try to do if we're running dialogue is I have the talent run dialogue a few times because everyone's tone's different, chest tone, if they're nasally, and the level in which they project. I've had some actors that have done stage work and they project really well, so I've got to gain down. And I try to give me their peak in their dialogue, whatever they're going to be doing, like whatever they're going to hit the hardest, I have them do it in rehearsal. And that way I'm prepared for that. I don't want to lose a take because I clipped, ever. So what I do is basically find the sweet spot for the talent that I'm booming, and I set the trim. Generally it runs on a boom about 12 o'clock on my main trim, and my fader I run at Unity, which is also straight up and down. It's different for every situation because sometimes I'm doing exterior and we have a lot of ambient noise and I'm getting a lot more level.
Let me interject. So for trim, for those of you that don't understand, the term trim is just the amount of your input signal going into the recorder. And then it's pre-fade, and then you have a post-fader if you are familiar with mixer terminology.
Right. My post-fade I generally send to a sub-mix, like I'll be sending one to camera when we do some exterior stuff today. Anything I do, I wish I could show you guys a little bit closer, but trim knobs right here, little silver guys, they pop in, they pop out. You set your trim, and once you set your trim, it's pretty much set it and forget it. In your fade, I can ride my fade levels because that feeds my ears, okay? So go ahead.
Sorry, your mic again.
Let me just take this thing off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let's just take this off.
That's why I took it off because
Just trying to embarrass me. So anyway, when you're showing your trim, once you get it set, you generally push it in and leave it. This is what's feeding my ears, my in-ear mix. So if I want to listen to just one lav or one boom, I can bring that up and isolate it. That way I can tell if there's any rustling on a particular lav. You can also PFL it, which that's another story. But that's the basic setup for trim. Get your level set. Get it set for that particular talent, and then move on to the next channel, do the same thing, have them run their lines, and do each channel. So if I'm doing 2 lavs in the boom, same concept.
So what's the importance of proper gain structure?
One, we want the maximum amount of gain to the card, the CF card. Maximum amount of gain, as much
Gain volume.
level as we can give it. Because in post, you want as much gain as you can work with, so you're not having to turn that, run that level up and get a bunch of noise.
Yeah.
Okay, so more gain before, level you can give, the better.
Yeah, when I get to set, I usually ask the actor what he had for breakfast, because then they are like, what? And then they start talking like regular voice. That's what I do. And
That's clever.
Yep, because I don't know, I don't ask them for lines because
Okay.
sometimes they tell me the lines. Sometimes, I don't know, depending on the experience of the actor. They tell me the lines in a low voice.
Right.
And then once they are acting, they're like very loud, and I don't like that. So I try to keep it, as you said, like the higher I can, that I'm able to turn down or up, depending. So like a midpoint.
Right. I always try to stress, hey, give me what you're going to
Yep.
be doing it.
Yep.
But some actors will do the same line 3 different takes in different levels.
Mm-hmm.
So you try to find the sweet spot,
Yep.
and then just be prepared,
Well, like we mentioned too, on the higher end recorders like this, they have limiters. And so explain a little bit about the limiters, how when you
Yeah.
have those engaged, it can
Well,
save you.
the thing is, like, you set up limiters automatically, and it will like apply it if that happens, if they go too high in volume. But the thing is, like, if it's constantly hitting it, it will turn a yellow light. So if it's constantly doing it, you should turn the gain down a little bit, because you don't want that limited like work all the time.
because it'll squash it. It'll
Yeah.
sound really compressed.
It's
You
just
won't get
for
dynamics.
like emergencies, let's say.
Right.
So if it's constantly hitting it, just turn the gain a little bit down. So if it's once in a while, that's
You just want to
okay.
bump it.
So if there's any of you that don't understand limiting, I'm going to give you a really, really basic, like, limiters for dummies, me. So we've all seen a waveform of an audio waveform, okay? So the peaks and valleys, so when you see those peaks, a limiter, basically those peaks like that, you're going to set a bar there that's going to bring that down, and nothing's going to go above that line. And like she's saying, if you have that bar set too low, it's going to start squashing it, and you're going to be missing, and if it's too high, you might hit peaks and you might get digital noise too. So
That's the worst thing. Digital clipping is really harsh. And I don't want to lose a take. We may have a talent that just gives the performance. That take was the one. I don't want to be the reason that we can't use that. I just hit the loft. Sorry. I've never been Mike, sorry. I don't want to be the reason in post that we lose a great take.
Yes.
So I do everything on the front end to capture the best performance. I don't want to lose anything because of my fault. So it's really important that you're cognizant of that, and you're focused and you're alert on set, and you're not just getting complacent and just going through the motions. That's just something I wanted to address. Any other questions?
Workflow, I mean, that's pretty much covers it. So moving,
yeah.
anything else?
Oh, just workflow, like before getting, I don't know if that includes, like getting into the gig, I always ask how many laps or what are we going to
Yeah.
be doing?
That's more into prep.
Okay,
We'll get into
okay.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about signal flow, actually,
Ah, okay.
sound going into the microphone down to the recorder.
I got some
Okay,
on that.
okay.
Let me do this real quick. Mic into the recorder. High-end devices like sound devices have redundancy backup, meaning that this has 2 SD cards in it. So if I have a faulty card on slot 1, I've got backup for everything with a CF card in the second one. Redundancy is
Which we did encounter out with the SD card failed.
Yeah, I had an SD card fell, and we lost takes. There were like certain takes that were weren't there, but we pulled a CF card out, dumped it. They were all there, fortunately. But think about it: if we had a great take that we would have lost because of audio.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons with Pro Gear where it has those options, whereas some of the smaller, entry-level recorders are not going to have
Yeah.
that, and you're going to lose takes.
Also,
so.
like sometimes
Right.
it's not the sound guy fault. Sometimes I have seen that you give the card to the DIT
Yeah.
and they format it for some reason. And it's not,
That's happened.
it's not our fault, and they think it's our fault,
But it's still our
not.
fault.
So that what I do when I get home, I just always back up the other card, just
Every
in
time.
case they lose it or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, that's not true. I have it.
Yeah, if you're doing dedicated
Yeah.
sound, that's what we do as well.
Every time.
James always he takes a separate card with him, backs up everything, gives me a card, and we've just did a shoot, I don't know, a couple months ago where we discovered the SD card had failed.
Yeah.
And the ones we're using are what the,
Sound device, they're
and
actually
they're not cheap.
Yeah, they're
They're
not.
like about $90 just for a SD card for those.
Yeah. but they're really finicky about what media they can use. You have to use specific ones because it doesn't jive with certain ones. That's why I buy Sound Devices brand, because I know it's going to work, and if it doesn't, I can blame them.
So it's always a good idea, to be able to do that.
You're getting some questions now, Rich. Do you want to hold? Or you want
We've got a minute, right? We have a minute?
Yeah.
One question.
Marshall, hat up, and then we'll come up to you, Paul.
So what do you think about the 32-bit recorders that are coming out?
The new Sound Devices 833, this is a 633, it's an 833. It's absolutely amazing. It's got an internal SSD drive, which is 256 gig, plus it's got 2 SD slots, so you got redundancy on redundancy. It's pretty amazing. It's next level to what this piece is.
He's talking about the bit rate. I mean,
The floating bit rate of 32? I don't really have much knowledge on that, honestly. I don't.
We're going to talk about that a little bit at Use You Can Use. I've got a little something to show you about that.
Okay,
So,
cool.
Yeah,
But I'd like to hear their take on it.
Sure.
I don't really have a take. I do 24-bit.
It puts them out of business is what it does. So they don't want to talk about it.
It's not that, trust me. I have skills.
Question on the limiter. Is
Yeah.
it, can you choose like a 6 dB and a 12 dB down?
Here, let me look real quick.
As your alternate when you
You're just
start
asking
peaking?
at like preset levels?
Yeah,
or
these
is it-
are,
Meaning the limiter's gotta say, okay, I'm recording 6 dB down. When I hit limiter, I use that 6 dB down channel, obviously, because your zero's peaking.
Right,
So
right.
you get digital noise.
on inputs 1 through 6, you can adjust it up to 18 dBu and down to 4 dBu. It's pretty much, they're pretty fixed. They don't have much flexibility. The new 833 you can do the ratios, 10 to 1, whatever you want to do. It's like way next level type stuff. The limiting's, it works great, but it's not really flexible. You can't adjust a lot of parameters
So
on
you
it.
And
said
also-
there's 1 or 2 levels down.
No, you can choose it goes
Oh, I
like
see. You
you
have
choose-
a limiter dial.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is
and then
a
you-
level dial, just like your main
yeah,
level.
Right.
and then you can choose hard knee or soft knee.
Right.
To kind of answer your question, sorry, on the 32-bit, until there's systems, consumer systems that are handling those bit rates, 24 is a standard.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's going to be a while before it gets
Sound,
them.
you would go back to whatever.
You'll have to re-sample it
Yeah,
anyway, right?
yeah.
For the recordist. How's
Yeah.
it gonna? but
We don't know at that point. We're not
Well,
recording
yeah,
at
my
32.
standard
So.
it's always 24 bit. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah, 24-bit, 48 hertz, or, there's a lot of times not even necessary for 96, but 48 hertz. Jim, quick one?
Yeah, a couple of comments. 24-bit is pretty much standard.
Yeah.
32-bit is a non-standard bit rate at the moment.
All right.
So almost everything is either 16 or 42.
Yeah.
Unless you're in a recording studio, you might be.
And until it gets to the point where it's accepted industry-wide, it's
Yeah.
really not a factor
I just haven't
yet.
spent the time because it's
Right.
not there yet.
Right.
I'll
Yeah.
educate myself, trust me.
A couple of other things. A lot of the digital recorders have a dual capability where it'll record on one card at 0 gain, at unity gain, and the other card can record at a reduced gain.
That way if you have a peak.
So that
Yeah.
way, you can have limiting set on the card.
Right.
Or on the system.
Right.
And so the main channel, the main card is going to be recording, but if there's a really loud peak, it might clip.
Yeah.
Whereas the secondary backup is going to be recording
Right.
maybe 10 dB down.
It's getting into a little bit more
Right,
advanced
but this
features
addresses
on
his
that. So,
question
but yeah.
about the
mhm.
limiting.
Thank you.
One other final thing. I use the Saramonic microphones, which you had in the mid-range, I think, on your sheet here. And when I was researching my wireless setup, I discovered that the Saramonics are the same specs as the Sonys. So the one thing about the Saramonics, they have the UD9s and 10s. The 10 you might think was a more recent version, but the 10 actually has a frequency band that the FCC has
Okay,
banned.
we can get in more on the details on that later, yeah. Okay, so we're moving along to metadata and labeling tracks. And one of the features obviously we're going more in the high-end gear here to explain. James will show you, there's actually an app that's used with the 633, and he'll explain that.
Yeah, check it out. It's called the Wingman app. And the thing that's really cool about it is you can stop and start takes, record, you can notate a false take, circle a take, and it stamps that information on your SD card. That way in post, when you load it into your DAW, all that information is embedded. So for instance, tracks 1, 2, and 3, I can go in, I don't know if I have it set up for that. I can name like my talent. Say I've got Lav 1, I can put their name. I can actually input their name. You type on the input and you can enter the information on that, which is huge in post when you're trying to differentiate your talent, what's boom. Also, I'll let you talk about this in a second, but it's huge to be able to monitor your levels. Sometimes I'll have this on a cart fixed, and I can, if I have to walk away from it, I can still monitor. Well, it'll show levels if you have coming in.
So I'm showing this.
Right on.
I'm
There you
playing
go.
back something that I had there, and you can see the levels there. So it's nice. It's a visual aid. But also I use it more for labeling, as he said. And at the end of the day, I do a sound report for the editor. And
And you can email that out, right?
you can email it, yeah. And then they know who's who depending on which software they are using, because you told me in some softwares they do read the name of the track that you put
DaVinci
here.
Resolve reads all the information.
But
for sure.
I know other softwares don't read it, so they have the sound report to know, oh, track 1 was this, or track 3 was this actor, so they know which ones to use or which ones don't to use.
And you can put notes in, like say if you have a rustling on a track or something, or wind noise or something, you can notate on that so they know to be
Yes.
prepared for it and be able to deal with it.
And basically, what it is here, I think the new ones come. That's included inside.
Yeah, it's got a
But
Bluetooth.
here is it's a
Dongle.
separate device, so you buy it separate, and you just plug that
Do you
in.
know if that's proprietary for sound devices, or is that standard IXML that anything?
Well, this is proprietary to sound devices.
Yeah.
The Wingman app is applicable just to sound devices.
Yes.
It won't work with any other device.
I know.
Sounds like it does the same thing that IXML does across the industry. Okay.
Can't answer that question, sorry. Sorry.
Does that work beyond the 633s? Does that work with the mixed freeze?
Yeah, Mix 3 has a Wingman. The new 833 Scorpio stuff has another app they created, which is even better than that. And they've got the Bluetooth incorporated into the device itself, so you don't have to have a dial.
Alexandra, is yours proprietary, different, or is it a sound design app?
This?
The
It's-
one, your app?
Same thing. We
Oh,
use the same thing.
it's
Oh,
the same thing.
okay.
I think when I used to use Zoom, they also have an app, but for
Yeah,
some,
yeah.
maybe I didn't set it up right, but it never worked.
Yeah, you know, there's firmware updates on the Wingman too. I had some
Yes.
connectivity issues a long time, and Sound Devices
Yeah.
is so amazing in their product development.
Yeah.
Each firmware has corrected any issues that we report to them. They're very intuitive. They listen to what
Yeah.
we say.
So
in the
also
field.
you never should rely totally on these things, because sometimes you can
Yeah.
label something and then maybe you didn't upgrade it or something, and then like one time I labeled a track and it overrode over other track,
Sure.
and
Yeah, I've had
I
that
found
too.
out other sound mixers had the same problem, but because we have two cards, it was fine. But it was very confusing because sometimes you just trust it's everything okay,
Sure.
and you give that to the editor, but you don't give the other card, and then they are missing a take, and you are like, oh, let me check the other card, and it's in the other card.
Let's go over this too. Another feature of the app is you can label scene, take. Like I've already labeled this one mouse because that's the scene we're going to be shooting later. I've already got it set to scene 1, take 1. What's really cool about this too is as you bump forward, hit stop and bump to the next take, it automatically increments up in the app itself. So all that metadata is stamped in there in increments. So when they load it in for post, everything's just like it's right there. Shows you the scene, take, and it separates the tracks for the lav, boom. So can't stress enough metadata how fast it speeds up the post process.
So lately I have been told I'm in my phone a lot. But that's not true. it's
Well, you
because
are, but it's
I
serving
am,
a purpose.
But I'm like labeling, putting notes, and like things like that.
I still feel weird about that too because I'm like I'm not slacking. I'm actually working here. You can use these with tablets as well, and a lot of soundies will actually mount the tablet. There's a mount that you can actually have it here, but it kind of interferes with your boom when you're trying to move around. The next level stuff is moving to a cart. Which you could actually mount your bag to a cart. You could have a Submix, a CL12 Sound Devices, which is amazing, and have a video monitor. That's pro level setup, so you can see visually your boom op. If they're getting in the frame, you have your own monitor. You're not having to rely on the AD going booms and shot.
Yeah, no one wants to hear that.
I have seen some sound mixers that they just leave the bag. I like to carry it with me, but once the levels are set up and you know what you're doing, you can actually just do boom up yourself and just leave it, and then just press record from your phone and just check the levels, and you just boom without carrying it. But I don't like to do that, but I have seen some people that do that.
I couldn't walk away from my bag. I'd be too stressed out. There's no way I could function.
Well, especially if you got to grab levels on the fly.
Do they auto start to the camera?
No. Well, if I'm hopping to the camera, yeah. Anything when I'm hitting stop and record, I mean it's stopping and starting the
and we'll explain
audio.
that. We're going to set that up here in a minute.
Yeah, I'll show you hop in just a second and time code.
Okay, so we're moving on to boom techniques. So show us a couple little tips and tricks.
I'll go first
when
on that.
booming.
A lot of variables on that too. The main thing is, like I was saying from the beginning, is you want to have your boom pole staged, ready to go. So if you have a short throw, you can grab your top section, throw it out there, next section, and take it as far as you need to. I think this one's a 9.7 pole. I guess the main thing to stress on this is having an internal cable is huge.
Can we bring a demo subject up here? Would that be helpful?
I know.
Yeah, Mark, come on up.
Yeah, come here.
Ask for.
A couple things. The main thing in booming is you want to make sure you're having the least amount of flesh touching the pole, I guess is the best way to put it. I tend to make a little curve right there so I can actually, if I need to pivot between two talent, if we're going like this. Mainly with boom, you want to be a little in front of the talent. You want to be, a foot is maximum I want to be close to. I really don't want to get too close because proximity effect, we want consistency per take. So I try to maintain the same distance no matter what to take, unless I'm in the shot. If we're doing a wide and I can't boom, we'll go to the loft. But 1 foot is pretty much where I like to be. 2 feet on the 416 is probably the maximum I would want to be. I'd rather not be there if I can. Handling noise, you want to have a really good shock mount. The mount I have in the blimps are really, really good, but this is a K-Tech as well. It's been really good. If you're booming inside, you want to have a foamy generally. You don't have to use a blimp inside because there's no wind and you're not going to be dealing with AC. What you're going to be dealing with mainly are quick boom moves, because if you don't have a sock on there and you're moving really quick, you're going to hear the so that really helps inside. What tips you got?
Well, for me, it's important to mention that I like to use the XLR outside. He uses it inside, right? That's inside?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay. I like it to use it outside.
Okay.
And then it comes out, and then this one has a clip or something to hold the wire, so it doesn't make any noise. Sometimes when you have the cable inside, if you move too quickly, you might hear the cable.
That's true.
Yeah, you might hear the cable. So if you wrap it around, you won't hear that, but then you're struggling. You have to constantly be wrapping your cable. And I like to be as close as possible. Like if I'm indoors, I usually use this mic. I like to be as close as possible. If it's an interview and they're not moving a lot, and I'm not in the shot, I put it like here. Sometimes you put it here and it's not even in the shot. But I don't want to put it so close that if they move, I will lose them. That's why he says a foot. It's about right, because if they laugh, if they move, then you lose them. See? Also, for shadows, you have to right now I'm hitting him with the shadow. Mm-hmm. So this is great for sound, but it's not great for camera. So I might be like here, like up or something like that. Sometimes I hate when camera people are like,
no offense.
Can you be higher just for safety or something? And I'm not in the shot. Like if I'm like here for this mic, it's not even worth it. You know? It's not worth it. It's like it will sound like a room. If I use that mic, it might be fine, but it's not the same. Like sometimes there is no need to be high up. There is no need, but they stress about it.
Right.
Or I hate when they don't like. I like to be in the rehearsal. Sometimes they're doing a rehearsal and camera is moving, and you have to rehearse with them, like going around to see if you see shadows,
right.
if you see the boom. And sometimes camera or whatever, they are like, oh, we're rehearsing. Just let us rehearse. And I'm like, I need to rehearse because I'm rehearsing my movements too. So you have to be like very like strong about like defending your rights because they don't care about sound.
Good ADs know,
Yeah.
you know, they know that you have to rehearse because it's a dance. You know, I had a LA shoot where I was with a Steadicam op, and it was a oneer going all the way through a kitchen out the front door. And
Yeah.
it was a dance. I mean, I was tracking with them the whole time.
Yeah.
And when something you have to be cognizant of when you're doing something like that, you don't want your footsteps in there. So you're you're doing heel to toe as you do this. So it's
Yeah.
like ballet. So
Yeah.
rehearsal is absolutely imperative, and
I
make sure
was,
that they know
like,
that.
in a shoot where they told me, oh, you can be on the second floor, and it was like something like that.
Right.
And I'm like, no, I need to rehearse with you guys. No, but there's too many people. But yeah, but I need to like be here because I will be here on the take. And they didn't understand that. So I was like, okay, I already told them, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to lab this in. And I just went to my cart and sat down. And then they did like kind of like understood.
Right.
And then he came and oh yeah, you can actually be in the rehearsal. And I'm like, no, it's fine.
Communication's
no,
key,
at the end
for
I
sure.
realized it was too much movement, and then I decided to lab only. But yeah.
There's a great video online too talking about this from a sound tech he's been around forever. His name is Senator Mike, and that's his legal name, Senator Mike, because he used to do all the C-SPAN stuff, and he's around senators all the time. They call him. So anyway, but look him up, Senator Mike, and he talks about his trick that he used forever. He goes like this. Maybe he's got wider hands, but he does this, and the human voice expands out. It's just not directional like that. It expands this whole capsule. So on some theater stuff, they'll hide it up here in hats and here, and sometimes it's on glasses and little lav mics. But on a boom, he always does this little trick. If you can get it within this proximity of the talent's head, then your proximity effect. If you don't know what proximity is, basically on a microphone, if you're within this distance, okay, that's the sweet spot for the mic, and it's going to sound nice and full and a nice signal and consistency, all that. As you move that away, the signals are going to start to thin out, and it's not going to be as consistent, and it's just not as good of a sound. So you want to try to stay in that range if at all possible. So we're going to move on to lav techniques, and we're actually going to wire up our two actors. So we're going to introduce our actors now. We got David and Christine, sorry. They're actually board members as well, so, and they're going to be our actors for the scene we're going to shoot here in a little while. So what we're going to do is, one of the things we're going to point out, hi Christine, one of the things that's not been an issue, but it's raised awareness in the last couple of years is a male sound tech that is wiring up a female talent and sometimes hiding it, that situation. So it can be awkward. Some actresses are just not comfortable with that. So talk a little bit about how you guys work with actors in general and wiring up. So we'll just go through the whole thing and we'll actually wire them up right now.
Sure. My main thing is communication. I'm really big on talking to my talent. I forecast everything I'm going to be doing. Like if I'm running a cable, like, hey, I'm going to run a cable down your back, I let them know in advance every time what I'm doing. And if there's something they're not comfortable with, I have no problem having wardrobe come in and help out. Always make friends with, makeup and wardrobe. They're your best friends. They've saved me many a time. I've had some really high-end talent that did not want a male laving them up, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. I totally understand boundaries. But what I'll do is I'll educate whoever's helping me out, the makeup artist, their handler, wardrobe. I let them know how to do it. That way I'm not, chasing my tail, trying to figure out what they did wrong. She talked about a bullet earlier, and what that is basically it's a weight that you can take this and you plug it into, and it's actually shaped like a bullet, and you can drop it down here, and this is kind of a pain because you have to feed it down, and it catches on clothing. If you have a weighted bullet, do you have one of those by chance?
No.
You don't? I was going to show. It speeds the process up, and you don't have to worry about catching stuff as you go. Today, I'm going to be miking him. I'm going to use pretty standard technique. I'm going to be going right here in between his two buttons. Ultimate placement, I find, and Frank Forth has told me several times, that's a sweet spot, the sternum. You don't have a proximity effect. That way, if they're turning their head, it's far enough away, it's not dropping out on you as they turn. If you go too high, you're going to lose it as they turn their head. So I'm going to start miking him up, so I'll be a second. You want to explain what you're going to do with her?
Can you come, please? What's your name?
Christine.
Christine. I'm Alex. For her, right away, like this is a nice blouse and it's separate from the skin. So I'm using one of the concealers, the Bumblebee, and I will put a sticky. And if I don't have to see the inside of this blouse, I don't need to. So she feels comfortable. But if I need to, then I ask her, can I do this or do you want to do it? And then they will tell you, oh, you do it, I don't care. Or they will be like, oh, no, I do it. Because everybody's different. So are you okay if I put it on? Okay. So in this case, I don't have to put a strap because her blouse is long on the back. And if I don't have to do that, I don't. Because then they might get uncomfortable or something. So, and then I just go like this. You're wearing two blouses, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like that. And I'm just going to put it like same height as he is doing.
Are you okay opening it to show people? Just how it's mounted. Okay. We'll have them open it and show how it's mounted.
Like that. And then after pasting it, I like to put, I fold the cable like a U a little bit, and then I put a tape so it doesn't transfer the sound of the cable to the transmitter. Because sometimes if it's just loose like mine, and if I do this, you might hear the clothing noise on the cable. So I like to do a loop.
Same thing, loop here.
Uh-huh.
The least amount of stress on the cable is the thing. If it's a really tight cable, any movement is going to translate to the diaphragm of the condenser mic. So, and condenser mics are really, really sensitive, so that's why you take the extra time. I don't want to stop a take to try to fix something I could have done on the front end.
And then once I do the loop, I just coil the rest of the cable that I'm not using. And depending, I might just put it on the pants or tape it.
So one of the disadvantages that we have today in this demonstration is we're not going to be able to send this signal where everyone's going to be able to hear it if there's clothes rustling. If we do get that, when we do the afternoon session, we'll show you if there's clothes rustling, how we deal with that. So it's a little tough with this kind of setup to really, monitor every little, source that we've got.
This is pretty much a best case scenario for wiring a talent. Button-up shirt. Generally, I can go on a sternum. What I did is I used a Bumblebee mount and right in between his buttons, centered there, double-sided tape to that and to the Bumblebee, and it's got the exterior cage to protect the element. So you can button back up, fine, thanks.
Cool.
He's already powered on, so that's good to go. Powering it up here.
Where was that loop? Was that loop right after the element?
So
You were talking about do a little U and tape.
So it's pretty much like this. So I just went up, put the tape, and then it went down. So it's not like straight pulling, because sometimes you might hear, depending on the quality of the lab. Like the road links, I used to have the road links, and you could just hear, like if you touch the cable, you could just hear it. You transfer the, yeah. So it's loose, taped it, and then you can pull it. Yeah.
How do you guys handle noisy fabrics?
Well, trying different, I do just different things. If it's very hard and that you even hear on the boom, there's not much to do. Sometimes a fabric is so harsh that you hear it on the boom, that is not even touching it. But sometimes you can do something about it. You might use, like I have the softies, the Ursa. I have these with little softies, the little hairs, so they might avoid the noise. And I put them on with the right cut circles. These these are double-sided tape in a circle form. So if I already have the lab on, I just put the hairy softy and I paste it on top. And then it might be a cushion between the clothing and the lab. And it might solve the problem, it might not, and if it doesn't, I put something else. And et cetera, until something works. Yep.
How long do you get to do that?
How long?
It depends on set.
Yep.
It really depends on the production. Independent films, when we're moving at a clip, you got to work fast, but I'll make them wait on me if I have to, because I want to take the time on the front end, because they'd be a heck of a lot more pissed having to stop a take for me to refix a lob. So take the time on the front end, you know, and establish a really good rapport with your talent too, because, you know, when they go to the restroom, show them where the mute button is. That way there's no, you know, weirdness going on there. Not that this ever happened to me.
Well, also too, if you get into bigger shoots where you have an AD, you know, assistant director that's trying to keep, you know, to the schedule, like kind of like we're doing right here. You know, you need to be realistic, telling them, hey, it's going to take me 20 minutes to do this.
I always do that.
Don't say, oh, I'll have it for you in 10 minutes, and then you're not ready. So be really realistic with the time.
For sure.
Yeah, the most experienced AD, the better, because they understand, oh, okay, from makeup, they need to be mic'd or whatever, and they let you know, and they take you to where they are. But the inexperienced ADs, they are like, hurry, like, why you didn't mic them? Well, I wasn't told. I'm not going to be behind the actor all the time. Like, that's uncomfortable for them.
That's the first person I meet on set is AD.
Yeah.
I establish rapport, communication. I do it in the first day. I'm like, hey, it's going to take me 10 minutes to mic this person in between takes. So be sure you give me that time. And generally, they'll come to me when there's a break between scenes, or if they're not going to be there and I'm not aware of it. Hey, go ahead and mic them up if you want to, and they communicate with me. So it's really important to establish communication
early on. And the
early
less experienced ADs, they don't give you time. They are just,
Right.
why you need mic them?
Right.
And like, we don't have time for that right now. Just boom them. And it's not up to them to decide if you just boom them. It's up to the director or you, because the director might want options. Like, it's not up to the AD to decide how are you going to do your job. And some ADs take on that responsibility, and that's not the case. Like,
That's kind of the reason we lob talent at all times. As soon as we get there, we'll lob them.
Yeah.
That way, if we need that lob, it's always there. Boom is a preference. Boom has a better tone. Just logically, it's a larger diaphragm. It's going to get more full spectrum of the frequency response. Boom always sounds better, even though I've got a Cause 11, which is she's got DPA, which is amazing, lofts. You always want to have a boom for safety. That way, if you have like RF interference, you have a rustle, and you've got a great take, you can always go the boom to pick up that take if you have a bad lob. So booming and lob is pretty much standard practice on
in the
everything.
ideal world, everybody will have a boom operator. That way you don't have, it sounds better and you don't have noises.
Hey, Oliver.
And
You're going to get into situations too where you've got a wide shot and you can't get a boom in there. So you
Right.
have to go to your lobs. But you know.
Right. And it depends on the shot too. Sometimes you'll have a shot where they're a little bit wide, but they've got a lot of headroom, but it's dark down here, so I can boom, I can undersling. So that's also, it's not best case scenario, but it's safety. You always have it there if you need
and
it.
then lately there are a lot of people are doing vertical frames because new media things on the phone. So sometimes you had a lot of headroom and it's not worth it. So I put it on the side, like in front on the side.
Yeah, knowing your aspect ratio is so important.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
we had a shoot where we were shooting 16:9 frame, but it was going to be outputted at 239, which is letterbox. So we used that letterbox space to put the boom, and then in post, the editor and the director's like, "Well, you know, boom's in every shot." You're like, well, no, it's the aspect ratio. So you just need to know, and that's part of your prep going into a shoot is understanding that.
Right.
One of the things we're going to move on to is, real briefly, is sound treatment. And that is your responsibility as well when you get into a situation like if you're filming in a real house. You have to really be in tune with your ambient noises and try to eliminate those. And some of the horrible ambient noises that you may not hear as you're walking into the room, people don't notice, but like a refrigerator, AC units, any kind of appliances that may be on that are just making low hum, computers sitting in a room, and it's like, what is that? Drives you nuts. So, and then there's other things that we do. We got a Fernie that we right?
Yeah, I got a couple.
So James will show you a couple little things we do or talk about scenarios going in just to try to get the best sound as possible in a room.
So the AC and fridge, it might not be a problem if you cut the frequency out on post, but the thing is like when you are editing and you cut in between takes, the tone might change of that fridge. It might turn on and off, and then it makes your film look cheap. You might have great sound gear and it looks cheap just because you have different ambient sounds.
I generally try to be the first on set whenever possible, and I'll walk every room we're filming in, and hopefully when they do the walkthroughs, when they're location scouting, I could be there too. I always walk the room and listen for those kind of things, like fridges. Obviously, that's our main enemy. We'll have the AC on in between takes, but I'll kill it in between, during takes, obviously. I'll have someone I kind of designate to do that, PA or something. That way I don't have to deal with it. Couple tricks. The mic I use, the MK, the 416, on small rooms, if you have a lot of reflection, if you boom it and you're off axis, it'll give you this warble sound because it's getting the slap off of the wall and the diaphragm. So I really try to be aware if I'm going in the small room, if I have to treat it, I find out what the shot is, and your best friend for that kind of stuff are the packing blankets. $15, I think, at Home Depot. We've got probably eight of them, and we need more. I mean, the more the better. On interview situations, if we have like a reflective floor and talent's fixed, I'll generally throw this in front of them, and let them know, hey, it's really slippery, so be careful when you stand up. But a treatment like this makes all the difference in the world. Small rooms, it tightens it up. Reflective floors, so definitely a good investment. What you got?
Sometimes I do a lot of interviews and they're just sitting down talking and you don't think they will make a noise on the floor, but they might be nervous and they are moving their feet and then you hear that and and they're not even walking, but you are hearing that. So it's nice to have
squeaky chairs.
Yes.
Or there's like any number of things that can happen. You just have to be aware of that, and you have to speak up.
Yes.
You got to fight for your sound, because sometimes we got to go. We don't have time for that. Make time for it,
Yes, you have to be like serious about your job. Like if you need to fix a laugh, maybe wait until the question is done, or very quietly tell somebody. Depending on what it is, it might be just one question to one person that moment, and you need to speak up right there. But sometimes you might have the time to redo the question, so you might wait until they finish that take or whatever, and then say, "Oh, I need a second take." Right. But depending on the situation, you need to speak up. I had a DP that told me, "Don't be afraid to put the boom in closer," because he knew. So that's where I learned I could put it here. I might not be on the frame, and it sounds great. Some boom operators are afraid, and they just put it 3 feet away because that's how it looks in the picture sometimes.
That's another person befriend early on is your DP, because if boom's in shot, they're going to call it, and you want to make sure you establish a rapport. And preferably you have your own monitor and you can view it yourself. But if boom's in shot, if you don't have a good relationship, they're like, boom's in shot, you ruin a take, it could be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that affects talent too. You don't want any negativity on set. So little things like that make a big difference.
And then you have to respect yourself. I'm learning because I used to be like, oh, camera, respect camera, right? But then after I start spending a lot of money on my gear, I was like, okay, you should not be touching my equipment. I don't touch your lenses. Why are you touching my mics? Or the other day I was in a shoot and the AC, the boom was getting into the shot. It was a short film, and the AC just we were double boom. I was one boom, and the other guy, the sound mixer, was doing second boom, and the AC just did this to the boom of the mixer, boom. And the sound
so you
mixer,
hear that?
The sound mixer was like, you never touch the boom ever again.
You have no idea how loud it is in our ears because we have to.
Yeah.
Our volumes tend to be increased.
It's about
for sure.
respect. You don't do this to the camera, boom, because it might be doing noise with the fan. No, you don't do that. You tell them. Yeah.
When you work with a lot of amateurs, they tend to do that. They don't really know on-set etiquette. But when you get more into the professional level, they respect soundies and they know and
Yeah.
they work with you, but you're gonna
Yeah.
run into
Yeah, this
scenarios.
guy was experienced AC and he did that. And that's why we were like, oh, that's weird that this
Yeah.
happens in this set. That's why the sound mixer was like, you never do that again in front of everyone. But you don't want that negativity on set. You usually want like relax, communicate, and like everything nice for the actors to perform well.
This is talking about interview, which you mentioned earlier. This is pretty much my standard setup whenever I'm doing a fixed position, seated type thing. Well, you can if you want to, relax. C-stand preferably. Always want to do heavier weight, C-stand, sandbags, safety always first. You don't want to hit talent under any circumstance. This mount that holds the boom pole is about $20 and it's paid for itself many, many times. Here, always make sure that your tightening handle is on the right-hand side because if it starts dipping, it's tightening it as it goes. Don't ever have it on the left. It's going to be loosening it. So always have it on the right-hand side to tighten as it goes down. Cool thing about interviews is you have a fixed position. You don't have talent moving. I don't always lob them in this situation. If I have a fixed position, I'll leave a boom up, and because it's going to sound better. And if there's any, moving of the head, it's going to capture it a lot better. Always use your top section first to adjust, raise up as high, go as low as you can on it. This is a tall stand, which Rich is named,
Larry Birds.
These are Larry Birds, because they're a tall stand. The shorter stands are the...
We can't say that's politically incorrect right now.
Is it?
Yeah.
I can't keep track, sorry. So anyway, this is the best case scenario. I can extend out as far as I need to. I can fully extend this boom, and the C-stand will support the weight and maintain safety, which is, again, first and foremost.
So I do travel, and I need everything on my case, just in case. So I have these. It's for green screens, and it fits on my case. It's very light. And I had the smallest soundbar I could get to travel because sometimes you might go to a place where they don't have that. And I have a Mayfair instead of that, just for travel. When I'm not traveling, I do that. And then I put the boom. Same thing, but here. It's just for lighter setup. And it works fine. Same thing.
So one of the things we're going to do next is when you're working with a camera, sometimes you've got different models of cameras. Sometimes you're working with DSLRs and then all kinds of different grades of pro-type cameras. You're going to have some cameras have horrible most of them have horrible on-set sound. So this camera's pretty decent, but there's a couple different options you have of getting sound either to camera, because we have certain scenarios for turnaround time where we call hopping the sound to camera, where we wirelessly run it from an output on the mixer to the camera and I record it right to the cards here. So when we're editing, it's not even an extra step to sync sound. We're just like, we're go. And it's ensuring that we're getting a good signal, scratch audio to the camera, rather than using the onboard microphone. So there's different ways when you get into post of syncing, where if you get a good signal on your camera, you can sync up by waveform. We use timecode, so we're going to be showing both methods, and then in the afternoon when we get into post, I'll show you the 3 different ways of syncing the sound, and obviously syncing manually, which is, we'll get into that. So if anybody that's dealt with syncing, we had an issue like we were talking about with the timecode failed on us on a shoot, and like, oh my God, and we didn't have a good signal on camera, so I had to physically, manually just, lock in all the sound to the picture, and it's a nightmare. That's how they used to do it old school years and years ago. So James is going to explain how we hop to camera.
Redundancy is pretty much the key on anything that I do. I make sure that we, as soon as camera does build, I'm on that camera. As soon as they're done with their camera work, I generally jump over there and I will throw the hop on. Let me sync this real quick and I'll show you what I'm doing. Okay, first thing, hop to camera. Basically what I'm doing is I'm taking all the signal that's coming into my recording device and I'm transmitting it out to the camera. And we input XLR into the camera. So everything that I have going into my device is going to the camera. Generally, if I have like 3 mics live, I got a couple lavs and a boom, we're not going to use the audio that we record to camera in post because we want isolated tracks so we don't have any phasing issues between the mics. But like Rich was saying, for syncing in post, say we have a time code issue, it jumps time on me, we can always default back to that and sync manually to waveform, which we've got a couple programs. DaVinci Resolve's really good with it, and then what's the other one? We used to use?
Pluralize it.
Pluralize, that's the
We
one.
stopped using it, but it's
Yeah.
pretty decent for syncing waveforms.
Main thing when I'm hopping the camera, I want to make sure that I'm not interfering with his grab, whatever he needs to do. Like this is a handle, obviously, so I'm going to face it this way, shoe mount's going on. I want to make sure it's tight because if he's moving the camera around, we're not getting anything unplugged. We've got everything wired, pre-wired. Our time code cable's right here. I generally try to go this way. Make sure you're going in input 1, which is what we're set to. Every camera's different. A lot of cameras don't have XLR inputs. Even some of the REs don't, which I find strange. But in time code, we'll do that next. Time code basically is a clock, and it's synced to it's on point.
Well, you've got 2 different options with time code. I mean, you can set it at a fixed number that it's just running like
Sure.
like a stopwatch.
Right.
Or you set it to time of day, which we prefer time of day because we were doing a reality show with multiple cameras, 4 cameras, and everybody's on the same time code, time of day. So producer notes know, hey, we shot this between like 10 and noon. So you just generally can know the time of day real quick, and you know those clips, what part of the day they were shot, and just for organization.
So time code is in my mixer, right? And then with the cables I told you I had already set up here, I jam the slate. So they have a visual aid of time code besides the clap, besides this. So that way it's like extra safe. And then there's different devices like he's using right now, the Tentacle. They are very nice because they are light, but they don't have a visual aid, like you don't see it, but you have your phone. So you can see battery and everything on your phone with the app. I do have other options, like this is the Ambient, same brand as the Boom Pole. This is like the standard back then, and it's bulky, but it has a very nice display. And this is a Deneki one, and it's also showing the time code there, and you can turn the light on. So this is like $1,200, and this is like, I don't remember, around 200, I think. These, and then the Tentacle. How much are the Tentacle?
They're actually inexpensive. They're
Yeah.
like $200.
They're not
$225?
that expensive. It might be expensive are the cables. The time code cables might be around $50, $100, because different cameras have different inputs. And you have to be careful with those cables because the ACs don't care and they break them. So you have to be careful and have extras.
Some
Yep.
cameras like this one too will have a running time code on there. So Soundy can look at it, and he's got an app, and it'll show you on this. We've got
So
synced up.
first thing, the 633 is my master clock. So the master time clock's here. And then what I do is it's called jamming. I jam it to this via a cable, which comes out here. There's a jam menu in here, and it sends the information out and locks it with this Tentacle sync. And from there,
feeds it down to the time code
right
into the camera.
And then I can check if I want to make sure it's connecting right now for some reason.
Time code, you also have to pay attention to frame rate. So if you're shooting at
Good
30,
point.
you ask
Yeah.
them and you set it up so the displays, everything is at 30 frames per second or 24 or whatever you're doing.
It's not connecting for some reason.
And
There
if
it is.
it's a slow motion,
it
don't
is.
care. Like, just make a multiple of that. If they're shooting at 60, then you put everything at 30. If they're doing 48, then you do 24.
Okay, so once I sync the Tentacle, I want to make sure it's sending that information to the camera, and we do that via BNC, like Rich was saying. And then I want to make sure I pull up my app that shows it's 10:47, which is the time. I make sure it's jammed and they're syncing, seconds are all together. And it's locked. So I know in post, when he loads the files in, which we'll show later on, it shows time code that's coming into the camera and frame. So you sync it together in post.
So he may start recording before camera, or camera might start recording before, and they don't match up exactly at the beginning. That's why you got time code. They're gonna offset and adjust, and sync everything up for you.
Yeah, and also, I don't know if you noticed, but I have 3 different time code devices here, and every single one has a light at the same time. Do you see that? Right? So if you're in a hurry and you don't know, like you want to double check time code really quick just by sight, you can just check if the AC while carrying the slate matches the light on the camera, and then, okay, it's still in sync.
And many times too, cameras like this one will drift time code. The clock's not perfect. It'll drift over time. So usually we jam twice a day just to be safe, or more, but it's usually pretty consistent for a day.
Look, he has a light too here. Can
Yep.
can you see that?
It shows.
So it might not have a display that the other ones, but it still has the light, and it's nice to have.
And there's these tentacles do different functions. There's different colored lights on there, but when it's green, you know that it's
working fine. Yeah.
One thing to mention real quick, high-end devices. Whenever I'm booming, sometimes I'm a one-man show. So I'm booming, I have this on. I need to be able to hit record and then be back in the position to mic talent. High-end units like this have a pre-roll section. Basically, if I hit record, it'll record 6 seconds previous to when I hit record. It time travels. I don't know how it does it.
It's amazing.
It really is cool though. That's huge because sometimes I'll be late on the take. They'll hit I'll go sound speed, and it didn't. I'll bump it, and it didn't actually hit record. I'm going, oh crud.
Sometimes he's screwing around on his phone.
Yeah.
And we're like, roll.
But pre-roll you can set to 6 seconds down to 1 second. So when you hit record, it records previous 6 seconds.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Magic.
We gotta move on.
Okay.
So we, like I said too, at lunchtime, we've got lunch coming in. They're going to be here. Feel free to ask them any questions, and they'll go in more depth of all of this stuff. So the last thing we're going to do before we get into shooting the scene is, not everyone does this. We had a discussion about this, but knowing your script. You guys don't all have this script, but in the script, explain, as you go. Like me as a director, I like, and we've worked on this, I like him to know the script, especially if we're going to be doing some blocking. We're talking about moving through. We need to know all those things, but also too, to go down, learn the script, because there may be notes in the action lines where there's some sort of sounds that we may not get on set in that situation. We want to do some on-set Foley to save some time later. So what we're going to be doing today is the scene, it requires the male actor to be running into the room, but if we're not going to boom that shot, which we're not because we're not going to be able to have the headroom for it, we may not be picking up his footsteps. Okay, which might look odd, and if we do sound design later and have to match each footstep, might take some time. So it's always nice to get that real Foley on set, especially because he's going from carpet to hardwood floor. It's going to make a difference in sound, those types of things. So it's called tagging a script. You do that during your breakdown, and there's a industry kind of a standard colored code system for that, and sound is purple. So if you ever see a script that's broken down, which is a whole other discussion, but you can make notes so on set, because we've had situations where we're going to have someone, just jingling keys in a door. It's not a big shot, it's just a little B-roll pickup shot, but camera might be at a certain distance where we can't get the mic right on that object because it's not, someone's mouth. So we'll do a wild track, we call it, which is not synced to any visuals. So it's just an independent track by itself. And what we'll do in that situation is he'll actually call it out. Keys jingling in the door, take one, and then that way later in sound design we know, we got these keys matching up with that shot. So.
Right. You want me to go over that real quick?
Real quick. Just
I like to have the script, the final script, as soon as I can get it. If I can live it for a few days, the better. I go through and I notate, I highlight, like Rich was saying, any Foley stuff that I need to pick up, either real-time live or I need to do it on the fly. Basically, I like to make sure, like when he's coming in, I want to make sure his cadence of footsteps, since I can't be tight on him to boom him, I want to make sure the talent knows, hey, pay attention to your cadence, because we're going to kind of mimic that again, and I'm going to do a Foley of that. So communication, I know on the front end that I need to talk to talent about what they're doing, and so they know to pay attention to what they're doing. So it saves a lot of time.
Oh, talking to the AD, like sometimes they do a quick change because they are running out of time. And maybe it's a scene that you were doing one talent and then they change to the other one that has 6 talents and they never told you. That was maybe for the other day and they never told you and now you don't have prepared the 6 laps. So it might take a while to set that up and they were trying to like do it quicker for some reason. Or so you have to have communication with the schedule, the shot list, and the plan of the day, and the script, the updated one.
All right, cool. So any questions on that real quick on any of the sections we just went over for production?
Before we set up, if you get a question.
We need the mic over to.
Stand by.
Yeah, sorry, hold for mic.
We're recording
hold
this.
for sound.
We have documentation of your brilliant questions.
I couldn't tell, you were talking about wiring the time code, but then it looks like it's wireless. Is it wireless or is it wired to the camera?
It's wired to the camera. It is wireless. It transmits via Bluetooth to the device itself. So it's got pretty good distance, 25 yards.
But you mounted the device on the camera.
Absolutely.
And it's
Right.
just a receiver from the wireless units we were talking about earlier.
Question back here, Rich?
Okay, so about if you've got a lav and you're booming, are you recording at the same time? Is there interference between the 2 mics?
Yes. But if you have like a boom close to a lav, it'll have what's called phasing. It'll sound like type sound. So generally we use one or the other. Once each just back up for the other, just for safety. So if we have a great take, we don't miss it because of a miking issue.
Question coming up here. Hold on.
Yeah, let's see, if you're doing a wide angle shot on the camera and yet you're using a shotgun mic, how far back can you really go before it sounds like a big room?
It really depends on the mic. Some mics have a really good what's called reach. Like a Shep's CMET 5U is a fantastic mic. I mean, you could probably do 5 feet and you're okay. But you're just going to lose it after that. Even the high-end mics, I mean, that's when you go to lav. If it's a wide, generally you go to lav.
Yeah, there are certain, I don't have a model number for you off the top of my head, but there are certain like really long shotgun mics that have a very narrow pattern. And then you see them on NFL games and stuff with the dish, and it's very directional, and it's laser pointing at what who's making that sound. So that's not always accessible and on set to break that out for a particular shot.
So usually you go from a wide and then like medium shot, and then sometimes for a wide we just use laps, and then when we're closer shot, then we use the boom.
Yeah, we're gonna do an example of that because we're gonna set up the shot where we just physically can't run a boom on talent as he's coming in because it's a real wide shot, and other talent's gonna be in the foreground. So it's not it's not workable. So then we punch in and we do a close up on them, and then we will have, and then in post we'll show you the differences on the sound.
One more quick question.
This goes back to your equipment. What's the dollar value of this whole package that you're bringing on set? Because obviously, it'd be nice to have an idea from a producer standpoint.
Yeah.
How much value is this person bringing in with them?
Absolutely,
It's more than just
and
the body.
that's another thing. That's why we were. I gave those little example sheets. I mean, you can build a real basic kit for about $1,000. Real cheap mic, recorder, all that, headphones, and get all outfitted for a real basic kit. So I mean, you're going to invest at least $1,000. High end, I mean, you could probably walk in on set with $30,000 worth of gear. I mean, each one of these, Electros is, for a receiver and transmitter, I mean, about $3,000 each. And if you've got 6 of those on a set, it's, I mean, do the math. It adds up. And these particular recorders are like $3,400. So there's a big jump in recorders from even, the medium tier to pro grade stuff. But
it's like $9,000.
Yeah.
And it's heavier.
I mean, I was just giving some examples of gear. There's so much stuff out there. I mean, you have to do your research. You have to find out what's going to work for you and what's in your budget and price range. When you get to pro gear, you're going to have producers that send out, equipment sheet that's required for certain types of shoots. 633 electrodes, all that stuff's pretty much industry standard if you're going to be doing any network shows and films and all that stuff. That's why if you're serious about it, you're going to be making a career out of it. That's what you do. Go high end from the beginning.
We recorded 4 tracks, 2 labs, 2 booms.
Well, 3 tracks. Yeah, boom, and then they're all on each track. Yeah. And the 633s are capable of doing what, 6 tracks, right? But they have 3 8 tracks, but you have 3 XLRs, correct? And then you've got 3 minis. Okay, and then what?
The mix.
Line levels.
Line in for 7 and 8,
Yeah.
correct?
I thought it was track 1, track 2 is the mix, and then 1 through 6.
I'm sorry, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, 1 through 6 is the inputs. 3 mic level and 3 line.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Any more questions on that section?
Do you find that the 633, the 3 inputs and the 3 lines of mics covers most of what you do
Yeah, here's a variable.
versus the 833 or going forward?
Right. The 633 has 3 mic level inputs, like XLR connectors. The other ones, the 4 through 6 are TA3, which is still an XLR, but it's a mini, but it's line level. So it means you have to have a good amount of level coming into it to power and get input. My Sonys won't power those inputs. They don't output enough to give me a level. Electros do though, right? You're using them 4 through 6? Right.
Yeah.
Again, high-end gear.
It's just options.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, exactly. It's just options. And you don't run into a lot of scenarios where you're going to be like micing up 12 people on a set, and having all these inputs. I mean, it's, it can happen, but.
If you're doing that, then you're like, maybe you have a card.
Yeah.
Maybe
Right.
you're in a studio.
And that's when you can rent that gear to come in for, whatever's required for a big shoot. But
That's
just
the
to
key.
have your personal kit, just like grab and go, I think we have an online question.
We do, stand by.
Okay, so the question is, what are day rates for hiring sound mixers, recordings, boom ops, etc.?
That's secret. There's tons of variables. It depends on what's going on.
Mike Brueggemeyer's not here today, but he did it in one of our previous events where he talked about, I don't know the exact, there's a formula, I think it's like if you're working 144 days out of the year, because, if you're a freelancer, I mean, you're not full-time a lot of times. I mean, there's times in between jobs.
Absolutely.
So, there's a formula. If you're working 144 days a year, you want to figure out what you want to make for the year. If it's $100,000 and you divide that by 144, and it kind of comes up with a day rate. Day rates, you've got to be flexible a lot of times, getting work. If you're first starting out, you're not going to be able to demand the high rate, obviously.
Right.
But sound techs, I mean, if you're union, they have set rates, which I think is a $600-700 a day around the range. I don't exactly know on that. When you're freelance, I mean, if you want to grab a gig, $200 a day, and then you do a kit fee, I mean, to stay working. But generally speaking, rates are usually $500-600 a day for labor plus a kit fee. And depending on, our kit fee usually $150 a day for this rig. But Alexander might charge more because the value of it. And there's actually a formula for figuring out the amount of investment in the gear. I think,
My friends do.
Yeah.
So, some of the people I know, they try to do like $350 just for 2 labs, just for the kit, no labor. $350 just for the kit, with 2 labs and a boom. No time code, no slate, no anything. Just that. Then if you want more labs, $75 more per day each.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you want Comtex, $25 each per day. If you want the slate, $50.
And Comtex or talkback system. So.
$50 per day, the slate, and $25 each time code box, because sometimes you have 3 cameras or 6 or whatever.
It's just variable for what's required, but you always separate your labor rate for the day and your kit
Yes.
fee.
Because sometimes, and then it depends, maybe it's your friend,
That's what I'm saying. When you're freelancing, you got to be flexible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're going to charge more if you're bringing in extra gear. We've had obviously we charge more if we've got to bring in extra lav systems, that kind of stuff. So, cool.
Okay.
Hopefully that answers the question in a roundabout sort of way.
Want to get to the scene now?
Yeah, so we're gonna move all this stuff out of the way, and then you get somebody help. We're just going to move this stuff just out of the way for now. Did David, he ran through everything with you? Did he run through how we're doing the shoot? No. Okay. I'm just shooting this way and have you in the chair here. We're just going to do a oneer on the first one, or just fixed, and try to get that whole first thing. I'll punch in on a close-up, and we bring in the boom. Try to do that first thing, first half of it, 2 shots, and then we got one more shot where we'll strike the chair, and you guys are going to be kind of like on your hands and knees looking at the little mouse, closing the box over. So just three shots here, and then outside is going to be 4. Real simple. And we're not going to be doing multiple takes over and over. So. And we're not worried about cinematography and that kind of stuff. So.
Most of you doing your own thing. And on occasion, you'll hire a sound person at this level. Okay, how many of you do corporate, where you do a lot of interview B-roll? That's kind of your living, it's kind of where you work in. Hands up higher, I want to see you, come on. Okay, how many of you do narrative a lot? That's what you do, is narrative. I hire actors and I'm out there and I'm doing narrative.
Stay out front a little bit.
Okay, and how many of you,
cool.
How many of you are sound folks who work in the sound
Yeah, some
industry?
just striking
This is
stuff.
what you do. And how many of you want to do a sound? How many of you go hoping this is what I want to live and do? Carry that beefy thing around on your back. Okay. Okay, cool. Good to know where everybody
We'll be all
everybody
right.
lives at what level, because this is a different level. These guys are amazing, and I tell you, from my experience, Rich, you just interrupt me when you're ready. And ready to go. At this level, it's just awesome. Hiring a sound person is awesome. So much crap goes on, you don't want to deal with it. It is so great if you can afford a sound person in their kit fee, because they do things that you don't think about when you are shooting. So sound people at all, and I'll tell you, from my experience, sound people get some of the least amount of respect on a set, because you always think, I just keep going, and then you throw a mic on, and let's go. And it's not. And I've learned over the years
We just want to roll. We just want
what
to
that's
clear
like
your
and
gear out
how
of the way.
value
as
of
soon as
having
you
a
can.
sound person is on a shoot. I hired one of the good sound guys in town, Ron Hyatt, and I said, look, Ron, it's going to be 2 people. They might not use the sound. How hard can it be? It's a few days. You just got to wire a couple people. And that was not understanding what the client was looking to do as I was ADing, and Ron was running around all over the place because it was far distances from where the actors were getting dressed in the trailer and where the shoot was going. And at one point, Ron just said, I said, hey, Ron, come on, we got to go. And he said, hey, it's just me. And he was right. It was just Ron. So sometimes you need to think about your shoot and have 2 people, an A2, someone miking your talent, someone running it, because speed is really where you want to pick up, shoot right, and it can bog you down when you have one sound guy and you're trying to make one sound person do everything. So really got to think about that. If you're going to hire sound, do you need a second? And yeah, you're going to spend for that second, but man, I tell you, got to pick things up. And when you say ready to roll on your time, you're ready to roll and you're not waiting on all this stuff, because at that level, they're going through hair, makeup, they're going through wardrobe, and then the sound person gets them, right? Then you got to mic them. Okay, and then you got to reverse. So it's huge to have these folks, and they pay for every dollar when you're at that level, And sometimes you can't. We get that. And when you're doing your one-man band and you're doing your interviews and B-roll, it's just you. That's great, and that's where most of us live. But learning some of the techniques that these guys do is going to be great. And I keep saying, guy, apologize. What's the pronoun for that? Is there a pronoun? How do you do that? What they do? Sound pros. Okay, just making sure if there's a little pronoun on your business card you pass out. Yes.
You guys are
money.
Yes.
Because the post guys will be like, oh, we need to fix this audio, and they will be like 5 days, like paying them, which is cheaper per day, but in the long run, maybe you end up spending more money.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Bob, to your point, real quick, I'd rather hire a sound person who knows what the heck they're doing with mid-level gear than have the best gear out there with a rookie, because they will make great average gear sound great. And having the best gear in the world is not guaranteeing the best sound if you don't know how to use it. Okay? So, Rich, you ready?
Yep.
Okay. We'll come back in a second.
Okay, so we're just going to shoot a quick little scene that Christine wrote for us, and just real simple. We're trying to keep it lighthearted and kind of fun. So basically what's going to happen is Christine's just sitting there minding her business, and then a little mouse runs in, and she freaks out, and she screams for David to come in, and he comes into the scene. So we're not going to worry a whole lot about cinematography and lighting and all that stuff. That's not what this is about. So what we're doing on the first shot is a wide shot, and it's pretty, and you'll see it later in the afternoon when we put it together. Pretty wide shot to where not really feasible to get a boom in there. Possibly, if you see the...
Let's check the input on the camera, make sure we're going to external hot, please.
So in a situation like this, we're going to have a little headroom on her because we're anticipating other actor running in. If we can, we kind of gotta keep moving though. All right. All right. So in a situation like this, usually she'd have a monitor, she'd look at it, and she can be able to tell, or AC or DP is going to let her know, hey, you're too close, you're in frame. It's like, right, oh, you're in frame, come up. So she'll know right about in there to keep it, about that level.
Yeah, like this.
Right, but we're not going to be able to boom him coming in. So that was what I was referring to. James, you check audio level?
It's sending via hop, just to make sure your input's correct on the to receive hop and not using internal cameras.
Okay. Can you give me a test?
Yeah, 2. Hey, yeah, hey. The Human Torch was denied a bank loan. Yep. Hey.
Lavs? Test 1 and 2.
Go ahead. Do some dialogue, please.
There's a mouse, a big mouse.
I'm in Unity here. I'm fine.
Cool.
Cool.
And David?
David, can you hear your audio, please?
Cool. We're good.
Go ahead. Give it to me hot. Give it to me loud. Okay. The loud line? Yes, please. What? Copy. Got it.
Solid. So normally we'd be doing a slate and the numbers and all that, but we're going to be doing syncing up to time code, so we shouldn't have to worry about that unless something goes wrong. Did we double check time code?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So, and you guys you're good to go? Yep. David, good to go? All right. And camera speed?
Sound speed.
And what's going to happen is you're going to hear a little scurrying first, and that's what's going to cue you to look up or look down and see it. All right, and action.
David? What? David, please hurry.
What is it?
There's a mouse. There's a big mouse.
Oh, no, it's a mouse.
Catch it.
With what? Where's the cat?
No, I don't want you to kill it. I want you to catch it and put it outside.
Hold on.
All right, cut. Awesome. You okay?
I'm okay. I think what we should do with the boom for his loud.
Yeah.
I think it's okay. Limited grabbed it. It didn't clip.
Clean?
Yeah.
Cool.
Didn't clip.
All right. All right, so Dave, we're going to come in. You guys are going to do, the 2-shot here as you moved in, just a close-up on you guys.
You want me to still walk in?
When you're right behind her, in that second position, as you've already gotten there. Yeah, I'll have you rock into it. Banana in.
Also, we have shadows because we're lighting just from the front.
Not lit for the set.
Right.
Yeah, usually they are from like the sides or like on top or like different. Not from the front.
Go ahead and test that for framing. Go ahead and, David, go hit your spot. Let me see. Yeah, were you down a little bit? Yeah, so go to your 2. Here, okay, hang on. It's right there. Okay, ready? And camera speed.
Sound speed.
And action.
What is it?
There's a mouse. There's a big mouse.
No, it's a mouse. With what? Where's the cat?
No, I don't want you to kill it. I want you to catch it and put it outside.
Hold on.
Okay, cut. Cool.
Okay, you want to grab his footsteps now?
Yeah, so, yeah, go ahead and So David, we're going to grab your Foley footsteps running in.
Try magic cadence if you can. Okay, lobs, we can kill lobs real quick. Out. Out. Boom's hot. Audio set. And then call action, Rich.
So yeah, hold on. Okay, yeah, I'm doing Foley.
Yeah.
All right. You want to label it?
Yep.
Or you're hot?
Sound speed, Foley, footsteps, entrance.
Quiet on set. And action.
Got it.
Okay, so we're going to get him exiting as well.
Okay. Sound speed, Foley, footsteps, exit.
And action. All right, cut.
Clean.
Were you picking up?
Clean.
Someone was talking?
I was directional.
Who was?
I was
No, I'm
directional
kidding.
this
I'm
way.
just kidding.
Was someone breathing?
So we're going to lose the chair.
So side note, I was on Instagram and I follow a couple sound guys and I ran across that sign.
We're going to lose the chair.
And it was a great investment. I think, Rich, how much was the sign? How much it cost?
What's that?
The sign.
I don't know, $20 or something.
$20, it's money well spent. They fold up like a floppy. It's pretty rad.
Pretty cool.
And we've got two of them, so outside.
Did we have a box?
Good Apple box, you mean?
We got that little box there, or no, a box that we can.
Oh, for the mouse.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah,
are.
is there something we can use? I've got this little box over here too.
That's a little small though.
Yeah, it's a small mouse.
He'd be scared.
You have a Starbucks cup over there. You can go.
Here. It's a little mouse, little box.
That's the mouse?
Yeah, we're not going for realism here, guys. Where's my mouse? Okay. What's that? On the scene? We'll know in post, whichever is cleanest. But we've got.
No, but I mean, what one do you have set up?
Too loud.
Oh, it's the same. Which mics are we using?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. No, on the lavs we're using the Sankins, the actual elements, and the boom is the 614.
The one you see in the frame?
Is the booming frame?
No, you're good.
Yeah, that's totally good. That's acceptable. All right, we got to figure out how we're gonna. Let's move that chair.
To answer your question, whenever when we're doing Foley stuff, I mute the lavs so I don't have to worry about them in post showing up as a track. It's just a boom lavs. I mean a boom track, so it's separated. So now I've armed them back, the lavs again. Do we have dialogue in this
So
scene?
I'm going to have you get, yeah.
Okay, copy.
You guys do have a little bit of dialogue, don't you?
Just shushing.
Oh, okay.
Okay, copy
Okay.
that.
So I'm actually have you guys down on your knees by the, and we'll figure out how we're going to frame this to cover up the. Yeah, but I want to kind of get you guys in there, so if low as you can get, you're kind of creeping up on it. Yeah.
Also, you have to pay attention what the shot is showing. If this was, I thought it was just the box, then I was going to focus on the box slamming on the floor, not the dialogue. But now that I know their faces will be there, I will focus on their voices, not the box. So you have to see what the shot is, not just the dialogue, I think. Yeah.
Right, audio set.
All right. Camera speed.
Sound speed.
And action. Cut. Good. Perfect. That's it.
I've got,
So,
heads up, I've got Lav Russell because he's really tight, so we'll get to go to the boom.
and that's good. That's perfect.
Yep.
So, do we want to get a separate of the box just by itself, close?
I got it. It was clean.
It's clean?
Yeah, totally clean.
Perfect. Let's do another one just of that, and I'll show layering. Actually, layer it.
Copy.
So we're just going to have you do the box. So this is just a Foley.
Killing the Lavs, 1 second. Set.
So no dialogue. It's just the box sound.
Let me gain down a little bit.
And make sure we label it audibly.
Gotcha.
Sure, yeah.
Yes, please. Mimic what you did. Sound speed, Foley, mouse capture.
And quiet on set. Action.
Someone's talking. Someone's talking.
Hold. Quiet on set. In there, please. Thank you. And
sound speed.
Action. Cut. Good.
Give me one more, please. Let me gain up a little bit.
It wasn't as loud as the first time, sorry.
No, it's fine. Sound speed.
And this is take 2, box.
3.
3. Takes it 3. Sorry. Thank you. And action. Cool. Cut.
Got it.
Was it clean? There was
Clean.
a door out there.
It's fine.
Cool. All right. Excellent.
What's that?
Outside.
I don't know.
So very simple. We're not worried about getting everything perfect in the performance and the takes and angles and all that kind of stuff. Try to make this as simple as possible. So we're going to move outside. I'm not going to have monitor. And leave your chairs, please.
No chairs. Stand out there. Check 2, check 2. Please exit to the rear.
So we're going to be
of the
shooting the
aircraft.
second
Please
half of this
exit.
scene outside. So that way we're showing you how we're dealing with exterior noises.
So make your way out. Do you want to send someone out there? Where are we standing? Where are we shooting?